Check. We're live. Here we go.
Ooh. There's a noise.
America Heals, episode 14. Just to be clear, this is an opinion show. This is not something where you should adjust your plans for construction tomorrow or investments of any kind. But we go deep and we throw down a bit and we welcome you to the show. What's going on? Elena, is that a comment upon your heart color? Nice. Yeah, we got Zach here tonight. We got Ace. We got Jeff. I'm Marty. We are in all 4 time zones tonight. We got the West Coast on the map as well.
There comes Zero for the first time ever.
Dude.
Yes. That's like
we are here. Land this plane. Welcome, guys. It's we got Jeff, we got Ace, we got Zach. Say hello, Jeff. Welcome to the show from the Central Time Zone. What's going on over there? Is that a Chiefs shirt? What's happening?
That's right. My boys did real well.
Over.
I'm not a huge Chiefs fan, but I'm more Chiefs than anything else. So I'm excited to see him going back to the Super Bowl, even if it is against the demon of all demons, Brady, in his hometown somehow.
24-38. The game is over.
Thank you.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah, my curls are fresh. I showered today.
Some fresh curls.
Gorgeous.
Use some hair mask. It's a 10. Elena, is up on the beauty products.
There you go.
No, I'm doing
good. Into fashion. This is two episodes in a row where we've touched on fashion, so this is a trend. Hashtag America Heals Fashion Edition. And Mr. Ace out on the East Coast, what's going on, dude?
How's it going? Nothing much. My birthday was Friday, so celebrated a little bit. Watched some football.
Birthday!
Yay!
Awesome.
Finally had a small itty bitty birthday party with like 6 people, all of them that are vaccinated and or have had it. But we still social distance, so we did our thing. But it's been a great weekend. I feel I feel really relaxed these days.
Yeah,
just nothing. It is a little bit weird because you go on Twitter, which is, I'm not gonna lie, it's my favorite place, and there's no bomb drops, nothing. It's just so boring. It's just like nothing. And it feels a little empty, but I'm happy.
I think it's great. Yeah.
I think it's great that we noticed that.
Yes.
Right.
It really does feel completely different that you don't get a weird Trump tweet that every single day. And it is really weird that for 4 years that we followed everything he did on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy that they finally have gone to this formal format on Twitter, on the administration, where they're putting out everything, but it's in a formal way. It's not just like I woke up or it's 2:00 in the morning, I'm just going to start tweeting like a 12-year-old. It feels nice that, it's all formal and punctuated, and just feels like the way our government should be running.
Yeah. Zach from the West Coast, from earshot of the Pacific Ocean. What's going on out there? How's life? A few days. What are we, 3 or 4 days into this new reality?
Things have been pretty good, pretty calm. I've been pretty happy with what the administration has done so far, and today's been a good day of football, although I'm on the other side of the Chiefs when it comes to Jeff's opinion. After I'm a 49ers fan, still not over what happened last year. And it's great to be back.
It's good. It's good to have you back, man. And I'm glad that you you're kind of the driver of tonight's work. We're gonna take an in-depth look at some of these picks. And I think that the absence of the constant partner of craziness, which is what happened during this Trump administration. We just had this dance partner that throughout the day we knew was going to wake us up or ring the bell and cause us stress and strain and have to readjust the foundations of our lives depending on what sort of malfeasance was afoot, no matter what the day was. And so now we have a government that's back into action. And I know that there's going to be a tendency to talk about this as Obama 3.0. But I'm going to argue real quick. I'm going to lay this out to say what I've seen in the first few days of this election is, I don't know what you want to call it in terms of a little title. It's not Obama 3.0. It's, wow, did they learn some lessons about the mistakes that they made under Obama in governance? And it seems like they're making very clear messages that are going to allow for the kind of decisions and the kind of governing that is going to allow for as progressive as you want to go. And it's almost like they're setting up an infrastructure, to me, of saying, all right, we don't know where this thing's going to go because it's going to go past Joe Biden. And I think that it's in the air that we're going to lose and get rid of the filibuster. I think it's in the air that Joe is just moving on some things. And I think that it's in the air. I think it's coming. And so, Ace, I'm sorry, Zach, I'm really excited to hear where you're coming from on these. And I'm excited to hear what conflict that you see coming from a progressive side, or maybe a further progressive side than any of us are. As you know, it's probably kind of a centrist show in terms of trying to work with this potential new minority of the Republicans. I feel like the most important thing we can be doing right now is helping to exacerbate that rift and allowing truth-telling Republicans to have a home or at least a friend to walk with for the next stretch, because I believe that Trump's going to take the MAGA train as far as he wants to take them, and they're just going to go with him and leave a lot of probably decent, smart, and maybe more than they think behind. So comments on my craziness, and then we'll jump into the work at hand. We've also got a game tonight. At least one game, and we're gonna probably play that. We're gonna play that fairly early on into the night, Ace.
Yeah, I think we wanted to cover the Rand Paul.
Oh yes, let's.
And then this Aaron. I have it queued up, but this representative on CNN that I saw. It's a 2-minute clip, and then Rand Paul would be a nice follow up because it's kind of the completely different than what you're talking about, Marty. Is we're starting to see a lot of these Republicans find their corner.
So then let's do that. Let's do the Rand Paul and the other guy, and then let's do the Chris Christie as well, so that we can actually watch it, and then that'll set the tone for the later on piece.
The other guy queued up. It's a 2-minute video, much quicker. Rand Paul is a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then I'll find you a Chris Christie. So
cool,
if you want to share my screen.
Oh, yep. Sorry, I'm kicking back.
A lot of these Republicans, they're going to their corners. They're trying to find the corner. Where are they going to be? So here's this guy. Here's his corner.
Boom.
Bold decision, this audacious decision, even after the riots to decertify the results. You must have seen some concrete evidence.
Well, Pam, the things that I was not objecting to the election on behalf of was things like Dominion voting machines changing ballots, or these U-Haul trucks pulling up filled with ballots for Joe Biden as president. The thing I was objecting for is things like I said, in the state of Wisconsin, particularly in the town of Madison, there was an appointed official in that town who actually went against the will of the state legislature and created ballot drop boxes, which is basically ballot harvesting that was happening in the parks.
But this was all litigated. You know that the Trump campaign litigated all of this, more than 60 cases, and they lost. Either the cases were dismissed, the Trump campaign withdrew, or they never brought a case because they didn't have the evidence to back it up.
Indeed, I believe specifically, and this is the one that I debated on behalf of on the House floor, in Wisconsin, that was never heard because they dismissed it because of standing. Now, I don't believe that is concrete enough of a way.
Well, there were three Trump
appointed.
Okay, so you have Wisconsin, but you ended up not actually voting against Wisconsin. It was just Arizona and Pennsylvania because you didn't have the Senate votes. But 3 Trump-appointed judges actually threw out these cases because of merit. It was because of merit. There were 3 Trump-appointed judges out of all of these judges and the more than 60 cases that were tossed out, and you keep talking about Wisconsin, I'm still not hearing any specific examples of fraud. If you would just tell us, what are the specific examples you saw of fraud? Because when you think of fraud, you think of a vote, you're slipping one past the election official, or a vote was stolen, somehow it didn't count. Did you see that specifically?
No, Pam. And like I said, that's
So
not
you
the
didn't-
reason I
okay.
contested the election.
Hold on. So you wanted to throw out millions of votes without actually seeing any concrete evidence of fraud? Because that's what you were doing when you were contesting the election. The intent there was throwing out millions of votes.
Well, I disagree with you on that point. That was not my intent. My intent was to hold up the Constitution and setting.
Ace, can you please go back to the argument that he made before? I want to hear what he says when he said, I believe.
Let's see.
It's right in the middle somewhere. I was muted and I was yelling at the thing.
In Wisconsin, that was never.
Evidence to back it up.
Indeed, I believe specifically, and this is the one that I debated on behalf of on the House floor. In Wisconsin, that was never heard because they dismissed it because of standing. Now,
Stop.
I don't believe that is concrete enough of,
Well, there
of a
were
way.
three.
Stop. Please play that again and let's parse that sentence, because that's his argument. And I don't understand what kind of a canard he is spinning here. I believe.
Withdrew, or they never brought a case because they didn't have the evidence to back it up.
Indeed, I believe specifically, and this is the one that I debated on behalf of on the House floor. In Wisconsin, that was never heard because they dismissed it because of standing. Now,
so he doesn't accept that it has standing because he doesn't accept that the judge decided that it didn't have standing, which means it didn't have a case, which means it didn't have evidence.
Yeah, so he's questioning the judges from the very beginning.
This is all I was going to say, Ace, is that what was the title of this piece here about how she throttled this guy or something?
I think the title on this is Pamela Brown just bulldozes House Republican.
I would question the use of bulldoze in that editorial line, because we're going to have to get a lot better at bulldozing before we use the word bulldoze. That guy shouldn't have lasted more than one more second. And she kept batting him around to kill time, and I respect that. But I'm just saying that these arguments don't hold up. This has to stop. This is a campaign of madness. This is a attempt to continue on. Did anyone see Deborah Birx, Dr. Birx this morning?
Oh, that one is infuriating. I couldn't find her
That's
whole,
rough.
but that one was very infuriating. Because
I just want to add
Yes, sir.
that Madison Cawthorn, the person you just played, he lied about getting into a military academy. So he is not someone who's truthful. He has a history of lying, and he would lie about something like getting into a military academy. So that kind of shows you his character.
Yeah, that news did come out this weekend that he did lie. He basically didn't get into the military academy like he says he did.
What does that say to you? What does that say to you, Zach, as a student, as someone whose future is ahead of him, who's playing by the rules? What does that feel like to see a person who's given standing as a congressman, the ability to stand there and be treated that way?
It's kind of ridiculous, if you ask me. People work so hard to get into various colleges and military academies specifically, and for him to lie about that, no one should be a politician if you're going to lie about something like that. There needs to be a certain standard of ethics that we all need to hold everyone accountable to, and Madison Cawthorn is just not meeting those ethics at all.
So yeah, and if you were going to try to do a restorative piece, Jeff, if you were on a board of a frat board, and you found out that, or some sort of a collegiate board that you might have had some experience with some structures of, and there was going to be a thing where a guy says, I'm sorry, I'd made a huge mistake. I won't do this again. I want to have a bright future. I'm a senior in college. I'm a senior. I'm going into law school next year. How do I expunge this from my record? What would that look like to try to restore that? What are some things that person might need to exhibit to try to rebuild from lying on your application, let alone this? I'm just I want to get to the bottom of this restorative piece. What would you need?
I guess it's challenging because you're talking about somebody who lied and then got elected, right? So the question is, how do
He really
you?
lied in college too, right?
Well, yeah. So how do you? Someone's lied on their resume, been elected to Congress. How do you? I mean, if you cheat to get into Congress, how do you correct that?
Right.
Vote him out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm having a hard time thinking of how someone who lied to get where they are makes good without resigning. I mean, I don't know.
Especially when they're not even there's no contrition at all.
Right.
They're not like, I fucked up. I'm so sorry.
Right.
Oh, God,
I
man.
mean, that would be a start, obviously, to say, I almost applied to the military academy.
I have it full screen, Ace. I was enjoying. Sorry.
Yeah, I almost applied to that academy. I had the certifications to make the academy. I misrepresented myself. I don't know.
Well, I believe he got rejected from the military academy. So
What do we got here?
He lied about his
Madison. Oh yeah.
He lied about his business and his education. Basically, his business, he did have a success. He said he has a successful business, but it brought in no income, which we'll find down here. There was a car crash.
I have no idea what kind of gun that is. That's a huge freaking gun.
What is that?
I don't know. Look at the barrel on that thing. It's not like a 308. It's something big. I mean, seriously, look at the muzzle brake on that thing.
So right here, if you see this, he's been rejected from the academy.
Naval Academy before his accident. Cawthorn's real estate investment firm SPQR Holdings LLC, which he formed in August 2019, reported no income on his tax donations, and he was a sole employee. I don't know.
So either he lied on his taxes or he's a liar.
Yeah.
And he also lied about training for this as well.
The 2020 Paralympic Games. Well, okay, so this is what the Trump legacy is for a lot of these people, is that they rose into place because of that one thing that Trump always asked of his people, which was loyalty. And so when you build a system based on loyalty, then you have these sort of people pop up and escalate. I'm back at full screen, Ace. I appreciate it.
That's great. I'm just going to keep on popping up as we're going to go. So this is another example. This one is infuriating. I haven't watched the full thing, but this is the same thing you're talking about. It's all these people that were around Trump, and they have to kind of stoop to places where they don't need to be going.
Play this bad boy. This is so, yes.
So,
do you think President Trump appreciated the gravity of the health crisis you were describing?
I think the president appreciated the gravity in March. It took a while after I arrived in the White House to remove all of the ancillary data that was coming in. I mean, there was parallel data streams coming into the White House that were not transparently utilized. And I needed to stop that. Where
You mean
people
outside
were-
advisors?
outside advisors coming to inside advisors, and to this day, I mean, till the day I left, I'm convinced there were parallel data streams because
Disinformation.
I saw the president presenting graphs that I never made. So I know that someone out there or someone inside was creating a parallel set of data and graphics that were shown to the president. I don't know to this day who, but I know what I sent up, and I know that what was in his hand was different from that.
So that I got a question on that. If you're the leader, if you're one of the leaders that makes the data, and the president starts, oh no, we lost Marty.
Keep going. I'm sure he just accidentally dropped himself.
If you're the leader and you're the one creating the graphs and getting all the data together, and you give it to the president, then all of a sudden he goes to the nation. There's Marty.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Hello.
So I was saying, if you're the leader and you're creating these graphs and you're giving them to the president and you know you have the right data, and then the president starts showing that data to the nation, and it's not your data, but it has your backing, your name value. It didn't have Fauci's name, your name value. You didn't stand up and go, whoa, this is not the data I gave you.
Right.
I'm surprised that she let her name be sullied like that. I mean, if I'm making this is her reputation. You made these graphs. How could you allow? I know he's the president, but why didn't you protest and go?
Well, so let's discuss that a minute, because I think that then we get into this question that was coming up of those who stayed and those who resigned. Some people said, "My God, I'm out of here and I'm done," and they resigned with haste, and others stayed to try to make it as good as possible. And I am not a fan of hers. I believe that she pulled a lot of punches over the years, but I also think what we endured was so intolerable, and that there were a lot of people who just they played a bend not break defense as best they could on these things, and they stayed in office to try to do their best. I think it's definitely time to have a change, but just seeing Fauci, just seeing the way that man breathes differently, where he can just be living in science and not have to have this alternative narrative threat. That, I mean, what's crazy, I can't wait for the book about who kept Fauci in office, who was the one who did all the work to keep Fauci in place, right? Because somebody along the way had to speak up for him, I bet 1,000 times, and be like, you can't fire that guy. Nope, you can't do that.
I'm sure Birx felt really torn. I mean, she's sitting there, she's trying to give the president realistic information. He's taking about 30% of it in. She gets the mic every 5th day or something. I mean, I'm sure she would say, I put up with his nonsense to get my word out periodically, versus quitting, and he goes full Dr. Atlas and says nonsense every day. I felt I had to keep my stick in the mud and try and drag him towards the truth to do as much as I could, or else it would have been even worse. I would speculate would be what she would say.
Yeah.
I was trying to steer him towards the truth, and he's not someone that bends very easily. So, I guess another question would be, at what point should she have quit? What press conference?
Right.
Maybe it's the injecting disinfectant or UV light inside the body. She should have just got up and walked out and gone to the press, had her own press conference, and said, "I've been telling this guy the truth for 2 months, and he can't comprehend it. He's driving us off a cliff." I mean, maybe that would have been better. Maybe it would have just been a fart in the wind, and then Trump would have been just lying full speed the rest of the time. I mean, I don't know.
But I know you agree with this. I'm not like,
yeah.
The problem with it is the most important data that was being given by her was the actual data. How many deaths?
Right.
What is the contagious cycle? How many? Everything, which is how the difference between this COVID being a legit thing or a flu, which is what they were trying to pass on in the beginning. Well, 100%. The way you do that is by numbers. And if you have the president of the United States slashing your numbers by 60, 70% all the time, then you're doing more harm than good, instead of just going up there and saying, listen, the president's not giving you the right data.
But she doesn't get to do that every day, right?
What did she then do? This was her thing. It's not like Fauci went out there and did that. I'm trying to figure out what her other role in the administration was, other than give us the correct facts.
She only gets to go up there. She only gets to go up there and contradict Donald Trump once.
Well,
Yes.
Do you think it was in part to avoid something like Sharpiegate, to avoid like a PR problem?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I feel like she was a part of the tapestry of something Trump didn't have to think about every single element of, and he liked having her standing off in the corner. She had enough Reagan on her, I believe, to make him feel like at least she was, because he always thinks about the role and the people cast in the role. She was cast well. And so I don't know.
I'd like to add too, this is what users and consumers and con men do. She, I'm sure, was sitting there going, this is a serious problem. This guy isn't getting it. But she was also thinking, as a medical expert, I'm supposed to be impartial. So maybe my disdain for what he's doing is partially politically motivated, and I have to try and stay neutral, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think you always have that working too, where people are trying to use ethics in an unethical situation. So yes, what you should have done is at some point just stood up and said, none of this is true. Everything you just heard is a lie. Donald Trump's not listening to me. He's not listening to the experts. He's listening to Scott Atlas. He's listening to quacks. And then I don't know what you do. Fauci and her do their own press conferences parallel. I mean, I don't know what you do.
I got to pull this up from Redemption just because it needs to be brought up. At some point, someone has to say the emperor has no clothes.
Right. He also says a few minutes later, spot on, Jeff. So I think
he did, and I think he's with us on this. But I just want to say that the reason I bring that back up is this is how razor thin it was. Without the election, we didn't have a mechanism to say that the emperor has no clothes.
True.
We have a system that is built on the gentility of people who can be shamed, people who want to have some sort of an ego and social standing. It's not built for a narcissistic sociopath who has no light inside and needs everything to be about him. And so we found our weakness.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody in this scope has ever been ripped off by somebody or had a possession of theirs stolen by a friend, you're extending something in friendship and honor and respect, and you assume you're going to get that back. And the other person doesn't have honor, respect, and isn't worthy of your trust, and you get taken. Now, hopefully you're smart and it's $100 to help your buddy and you just sort of write it off. But, you know, in this case, yeah, I mean, she definitely, I agree she should have stood her ground. I'm sure she was trying to balance, if I stand my ground, I get kicked out, and then what chance will I have to impact anything?
Yeah, but I mean, she's still, I'm trying to find a video where Trump is, we had all these in the beginning, the press conferences with Trump coming out there and showing graphs and points. And
but that those were different, and those were his feel-good briefings. We know what happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was getting briefings that made him feel good on a narrative. And the redemption, I'm bringing this one back up. Hopefully people feel more emboldened to speak out next time. I don't think so. I think what we have to do is recognize the weaknesses and shore up the defenses against this sort of demagoguery and this sort of way of being able to refute facts and eliminate things like the CDC. Like we need to, I don't know if we need to make things constitutionally mandated, but we have to make a law that's larger than a president who decides that they don't want science. That's ultimately I've been going back looking at some of those Obama tapes of things he was saying right before he left, and they were furiously putting stuff on zip drives and trying to save all their research. And he was like, Americans, remember that you're citizens and remember that you can vote and don't let them take your citizenship away. Those are the things he was saying before Trump came in, because he knew we were about to go into a blackout. And it was a noisy blackout. We were blown away with breaking news until about 3 days ago. But that's what's up. So let's see this next one. This is going to be a continuation. And so one of the things we do on this show is we talk about epistemology, the origins of ideas. And so the last guy we heard of, his whole argument was that he believed that he didn't like the way that the judge made their decision.
And then they threw it out because there was no standing.
That he didn't believe that was
that whole new way of thinking of, well, they didn't even listen to the case, so they threw it out. And then they admit that they threw it out because there was no standing. They're trying to get into the weeds of tricking people into understanding what standing means.
Yep.
Which means there's no case.
So here we're going to hear a more it's a different level of argument. Let's just watch it and then parse it.
And this is from a professional.
This was this morning. This is a little higher level pay grade.
Second impeachment trial. Democrat Amy Klobuchar, Republican Rand Paul. Senator Klobuchar, let me begin with you. And we just heard John Carl say that there is some hope, Senator Klobuchar, that there will be some bipartisan support for the president's bill. Do you believe that, or will Democrats have to go it alone?
Hey guys, I'm down with that.
Sorry, Senator.
Fast forward this to the Rand Paul piece.
Yeah, I think I.
Okay, let's.
Were there dead people who voted? Were there illegal aliens?
We know the problems right there. Senator Paul, let me begin with a threshold question for you. This election was not stolen. Do you accept that fact?
Well, what I would say is that the debate over whether or not there was fraud should occur. We never had any presentation in court where we actually looked at the evidence. Most of the cases were thrown out for lack of standing.
Let's go back again and watch it. That would be again in piece again.
I'm going to try to be a lot
for him as a senator and as a physician. There are ethical requirements in both places.
He's a board certified optometrist by a board he created, by the way.
He created. So he's not He has.
So he's
his
a
own oath.
lone board certified ophthalmologist.
He does have his own oaths. Okay, here we go.
Wait. So
you
he
said
has
that-
questionable. He has a questionable line of authenticity and integrity.
Yeah, he's not properly certified as
He's
an
not
ophthalmologist.
properly certified.
It's almost like that's a common trend with these people.
Isn't it though? Okay, so then is the question, is there anything other than the answer no to the question that George Stephanopoulos asks that's an acceptable answer?
If you're a Republican, I guess you could say no, there wasn't anything, and then you could probably take the whole there wasn't any enough to overturn the election. We should look into any fraud that there was.
So I guess I want to stop
That's
and say,
part.
have we not done enough work to identify that that is such a fraudulent claim that there's no way that there would have been 4 states overturned? That, I mean, are we not at a point where we need to check this very question that Stephanopoulos is asking and being like, dude, you have to stop giving them this much rope because this is a bullshit conversation.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that never gets even brought up because it's kind of a sensitive, you have to say it, word it correctly. But the reality is, even if you give him one of these states that he's arguing, Trump still loses the election.
Right.
You have to word it in such a way that you're not saying there was any fraud. So when he's talking about fraud in Wisconsin, you're like, yeah, but Trump needed more than Wisconsin. How can you keep on saying this election was stolen when you're only disputing one state and that's not enough for you to overturn an election? None of them, and this is a question they should all start asking is, listen, you keep on saying that the election was stolen, but even you did not dispute the election in 4 states, 4 that you would need it to win. So how could the election even be stolen even in your craziness of this thing? The math doesn't work. Even if we just gave you that state, even if we removed those altogether and said, you know what, we'll look into it, it's not enough to win. But it's a tough question to ask because if you say it incorrectly, you'll essentially be saying that there was fraud, and we shouldn't even be going down that path of saying there was fraud because, as you're going to hear, it was thrown out. The judges, Trump judges, threw it out. So why are we even going into? Why are we even stooping down to questioning the fraud that wasn't there?
Zach or Jeff, before we go on, because I want to hear this pause again, because that pause is magical. It's a moment where he has to make a decision once again. Am I really going to go down this friggin' rabbit hole of madness? So before we go there, you guys have anything else to say on that?
You know, I think it's a little ridiculous that Republicans are still going on about this, considering that Georgia has probably been one of the most scrutinized elections in modern history, as well as Arizona at this point. They got what they wished for. They're just mad at the results. It's as simple as that.
But okay, so I guess this is where I feel like we have to go a little further. I'm sorry to push this, is because this philosophy led to sedition and murder just a couple of weeks ago. Doesn't that add a different level of media scrutiny and editing parlance of what we're actually going to allow these questions? What's the strike zone we're allowing this conversation? For instance, they didn't spend 1 second of this show talking about whether or not the Tampa Bay Rays won the World Series. They made a choice. They made probably a pretty good choice because there's not a lot of controversy about the Tampa Bay Rays winning the World Series back in October, right? Same with November. And yet we're still playing this game. How long do we play this game?
Well, Zach, you're sort of the expert on this. One question I would have, and it came up last time too. What was the last time there were objections to EC results, and what were the grounds for those? In other words, has this become a more common occurrence, or is this like insurrection to even object to the EC?
So it depends what you mean by objection. If you mean an objection that came to a vote, the last time was 2004 with the California Senator Barbara Boxer contesting the results of, I think, one of the Midwestern states that went for Bush. I think her claim was voter suppression. It went to a vote. It did not pass, and the Electoral College count was the same as before. but it is becoming more common for representatives to do a oral objection, if you will. They either won't have it written down or they won't have the senator to go with it. So it's really more of an objection just for the sake of objecting. It's not going to lead to any procedural thing.
All right, Ace, let's listen to this again, at least through the pause, and then let's listen to Chris Christie, who is coming up from a different place.
All right, here we go.
The pause.
Fact.
Back it up just a.
Do you accept that fact?
Nope.
Well, let me begin with a threshold question for you. This election was not stolen. Do you accept that fact?
Well, what I would say is that the debate over whether or not there was fraud should occur. We never had any presentation in court where we actually looked at the evidence. Most of the cases were thrown out for lack of standing, which is a procedural way of not actually hearing the question. There were several states in which the law was changed by the Secretary of State and not the state legislature. To me, those are clearly unconstitutional. And I think there's still a chance that those actually do finally work their way up to the Supreme Court. Courts traditionally and historically don't like to hear election questions. But yes, were there people who voted twice? Were there dead people who voted? Were there illegal aliens who voted? Yes, and we should get to the bottom of it. I'll give you an example. In my state, when we had a Democrat Secretary of State, she refused, even under federal order, to purge the rolls of illegal voters. We got a Republican Secretary of State, and he purged the rolls.
Senator Paul,
I have a difference, and those things
I have to stop you there. No election is perfect, but there were 86 challenges filed by President Trump and his allies in court. All were dismissed. Every state certified the results after investigations, counts, and recounts. The Department of Justice, led by William Barr, said there's no widespread evidence of fraud. Can't you just say the words, this election was not stolen?
What I would suggest is that if we want greater confidence in our elections, and 75% of Republicans agree with me, is that we do need to look at election integrity, and we do need to see if we can restore confidence in the elections.
Can we? I wanted to bring up this other thing that this is the other problem where it's really infuriating when these guys come out and go, 75% of Republicans agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
But what he doesn't tell you is 75% of Republicans agree with you because you are a senator and you're telling them that this election was stolen and there were inconsistencies in multiple states. And then they listen to you and then you get to come back and say, well, 75% of them agree with me.
Yep.
Which is that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you create an environment where then we poll about the environment and 75% of the people on my side agree with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like me saying 2 + 2 is 7. And then I tell everybody this is the case. And then I come back and say, no, 2 + 2 is 7. 75% of people around me agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I told them that.
Mm-hmm.
This other thing is I don't understand unless they know for a fact that their people either are all in on this, not educated, or just don't care. This whole standing thing that they're pushing. This is the second person that pushed this thing, which means that's a memo that's going around. Because I guarantee you that kid didn't have that argument by himself. A standing question? Come on. So this whole standing where the courts didn't even let it go because of standing is a ridiculous argument, because it just goes to prove to you that they think that their people are never going to switch.
Well, what's crazy is that it's been this way for a long time, but for folks who might be new to politics that notice this, you will notice these words. They're sent out the morning of. They knew that one guy was going to be on this show and the other was going to be on this show, and they all know every single day. And they drive talking points. That's what talking points are. And they literally, you'll hear the word, especially on Republican talking points, which are usually very simple, one-worded, usually 5 to 10, but mostly 3 that matter. All right, so now let's do Chris Christie so that we can hear the difference. And then I'm excited to hear Zach's presentation of our new cabinet, and we can go down several rabbit holes.
We're going to do my game first.
Yes, as we do that, that'll be the transition.
Ace, while you're playing the next video, would you try muting your mic? We're getting an echo. I think it's because
I'm double.
Yeah, because I think it's playing because you're hearing it too, right, out of your computer. And then
Yeah.
I think your mic is putting it back in through your source. So I think if you hit the
try
video and mute yourself, it'll just play the video.
All right. Let me know.
Let's just try it, because it's the last two have been echoey, and sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's not so bad. But
Okay. Let me try that.
Cool.
Let me know when you're ready.
Go for it.
Question that what the whole country needs to focus on in terms of our elections is making sure that we have some effective electoral reform. Nobody wants to wait a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, which happened in some of the House races, to get election results. We need to work on that and make the system better for 2022. But this election was not stolen. All of the facts point in that direction. And I'm a former prosecutor, George. I make decisions based upon evidence, not based upon feelings or partisanship or loyalty. You make those decisions based upon evidence. And the evidence here has shown right from the beginning that while every election has some irregularities, and I'm sure this one did too, there were no type of irregularities that would have changed the result in any one state, let alone the 4 states that would need to have been changed for the result of the election have been changed. And folks in my party who are doing that, quite frankly, are just trying to make political points with those people who the president and others lied to about this over the course of the 10 weeks after the election. And it's shameful that they're doing it. Question that what the whole country needs.
Boom.
Perfect.
I mean, he went the way it's supposed to be, right? This is what we want to hear from our people, from people in power that don't even agree with the politics of the current president, but they agree with what's right and wrong.
And these are people who lay down the road for where the narrative will be. I mean, these guys were. Chris Christie was also bearing gifts from a think tank or an element of a wing of a party that's saying, all right, here's where we're going. We're gonna get behind this because we're gonna deny it now. And there are others who are like, well, we're never gonna deny it. Trump is always going to be this president to this group. And so you're starting to see those who are going to stay with MAGA and those who are going to veer off. And hearing that Trump has spent the weekend talking about developing a MAGA party because he wants to try to lever the senators that are in place is, I mean, I think he probably figured it out, but it's not a very good idea to isolate the 17 central or centrist Republican senators who can get rid of you. All they have to do is jump on board with the Democrats. I mean, I don't know what his calculus is on that, but
that's actually, unfortunately, it's a good idea for Trump because he knows the most important things to the Republicans is the election in 2 years, where they're up for a lot of seats where they're basically guaranteed to win in a lot of them because they're highly Republican. But he knows he can swing. Those are a lot of MAGA votes. He can kind of dangle his his MAGA party, even if it's much smaller, like say 17 million. Those 17 million are the core in those states that are up. So I think it gives him a lot more power than he really deserves, because he'll kind of jingle those and say, well, I'll primary against you. I'll help whoever runs against you.
I would put my money on the centrist having the sway against him, because all they have to do is vote. All they have to do is convict him, and then it only takes the 51 votes to eliminate him from running for public office. So all they have to do is convict him with this whatever it is, the 60 votes, and then it's a done deal. So I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting February, that's for sure.
I don't think they're going to do it. They're all, as soon as the trial starts, the whole thing is going to flip, and they're just going to start arguing that you can't remove a president after he's already exited, which is it's not real. It's not true. Basically it would allow, if they gave that precedent, that would allow any president in the end of 4 years to commit a coup, either have two options. Either I win the coup and I stay in power, or I lose the coup and I have no punishment, which is what the Republicans will be pushing. But they're just going to be pushing the the law in a non-trial format and say, well, we can't remove presidents after they're gone. Oh, are we going to start removing George Washington? It's always ridiculousness. They did this in the first trial where they didn't really argue what he did. They just argued the small things. And that one was, there was a lot of.
Well, I think what Marty was mentioning wasn't necessarily impeachment, but it was stopping him from running in the future, right?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean,
So
he's been
that-
impeached. That's done. He's already been impeached
right.
twice. So
Right. I think the process for, I guess at this point it's conviction. It wouldn't be removal, but the
conviction,
process
yeah, and then
is-
censure.
yeah. So censure you can get with 51 votes, right?
Upon conviction of 60 votes.
So,
Yeah.
So I do have a question on that. I wonder if the Democrats, because the Republicans would do that, I wonder if the Democrats, because they get to create the rules on this trial, I wonder if the Democrats just kind of screw over the Republicans and make a rule that each one of those you'll take both votes, regardless of the first one.
Well,
So
there's a very good chance it's going to be a secret vote, which will change absolutely everything.
that would be excellent. But what if they changed the rules and allowed both votes independently of each other? I know it doesn't sound right, but it's their rules. So they would say conviction rule, vote on that, and then we're going to vote on censure with no office as well, separate from the conviction rule. So that
I
way,
think that's the way it's done.
well,
That is the
my
way it's done.
understanding is right now you have to convict him, and then you get to vote on the resolution, which doesn't allow him to run, which is what they're going to do, which is not a good idea because you need to get 17 Republicans.
Only for the conviction.
But my
Then
understanding
you only
is
need 51 from that
conviction
point
and
on.
the no office votes, they're tied together. So if you don't get one, you can't vote for the other. And I think they should split them up. So that way, even if he's not convicted, you can still punish him.
Well, I think what's going to happen, and this is why I think he's going to, I have faith in the system because I believe that the evidence that's going to be laid out is going to be so striking and so unbelievable that anybody affiliated with it is toast. I really think that that's where we are. And I think that that's why Chris Christie is smart enough to be like, I just don't want to be toast on that
He
day.
needs to be taking the other side.
And it needs to be popular. It needs to be like a documentary on Netflix for the week of the impeachment. Like everyone in America needs to see it along with people that watch the news so that everyone is crying out, this can't stand.
When you go to the Pearl Harbor Museum, they walk you through it. There's like 3 different elements of it that take you through the cultural times, take you through what it was like to experience it, and then take you to the response of the rest of the day of Pearl Harbor. And by the time you're done, you are, as a great museum often does, you're transformed. And it's just the evidence of the day. You're just like, oh my God, what happened here? And I think that they're going to be able to do, and in fact, I've heard enough from some of those who are going to be the attorneys on it. They're ready to lay this out in a way it's going to be clear, and it's going to be shocking, and it's going to be brutal, and it's going to make us all cry because our country was attacked. And we don't like to talk about it. We like to immediately allow the media to soften it up and say, well, it was a protest, and the protest freaking full tilt revolutionary terrorist attack.
I hope they put people on the stand. That's really going to be important to put people that are in power on the stand and have them talk, not just sources. I want to hear someone say, yeah, I was next to President Trump when he was asked if we should roll in the National Guard, and he said no. I was next to President Trump when he was watching TV and he was cheering and upset at us that we were not cheering for this. We need to hear people say that, and
I want to hear Kevin McCarthy on the stand.
Yes.
Of all the people I want to hear Kevin McCarthy on the stand discussing what it was like to talk to the president throughout that day.
And by the way, if the Democrats don't put Kevin McCarthy, they're missing a political point, because you get to bury Kevin McCarthy won't have an option. He'll only have 2 choices: not to go, which wouldn't help him because then you'll get to beat him up for not going, or not answering question, which is also bad for Kevin McCarthy, or he he finally goes against Trump, which is also a win for Democrats as well. So they have to put him on there politically. It's also a good idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's play a game. Let's change it
play
up.
a
We're
game.
done with that stuff.
All right. So I need some help.
Cleansing breath.
So
There
we're
we
going to
go.
play a game, and the game is called Guess Your Cabinet Member, and it's pro or foe.
This is the nerd Olympics of the internet, everyone.
This is going to be super, super nerdy.
Love it.
Jeff, can you take score for me?
Yes.
So
Are we-
basically, we're going to have 3 scoring options. The first one is going to be I'm going to list people, and some of them it's going to be education. You're going to see their education level. You can, if you want to ring in and say I know who that is, you ring in and say who that is,
And the audience can play as well here. We got comments can play as well.
but no cheating.
And are we playing to 21? Is that how we're doing it?
We're just playing. There's 9 slides.
Okay. there
So
we go.
whichever, and then there's a point system right next to it. So
Okay.
let's kick it off first. We'll see how
There'll be one contestant per slide, and however many points they get. Is that the
there's sometimes multiple contestants.
Okay, well, I'll do my best.
Okay, good. Here we go. All right. So see, there's 2 contestants on this slide. You ready? So
Okay.
the first one, here we go. Here's the information we have.
Oh wait, I gotta zoom in here.
So the first one, the education is Yale University.
You can just go full screen if you want to. I'm sure people
did.
can hear us.
Yale University BA in economics, and then for number 2 is Brown University. What is the AB? Summa cum laude in economics. Yale University, a master's and a PhD in economics.
So does anybody want to ring in their answer for 3 points?
What would a pro be, and what's a foe? What does that mean?
So foe means that's gonna be a Trump administration person.
Oh.
And then if you got to get the name for 3 points and who's the number 1 or 2 Trump. Anybody want to make a guess? Zach, you want to make a guess or more hints?
I'm gonna need more hint. I mean, I can tell which is probably pro or foe, but I can't tell you the names.
Okay, Marty, you want more hints or you want?
I need more hints. I can't make an assessment on that.
Jeff?
No, I have no idea.
All right, here's the next hint.
Yeah, I know. I figured that.
This is an experience. 2 points.
Professor of economics at Harvard University, member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, vice chair of Federal Reserve Board of Governors, chair of Federal Reserve. That is Janet Yellen. I'm locking it in. She is a pro, and she's number 2, Janet Yellen.
Okay.
I would say.
And the number 1 person is what used to be a gold partner in Goldman Sachs.
That's Steve Mnuchin.
And a hedge fund. And then Jeff, do you want to make that guess as well?
Oh, I have to back up one of these 2 guys?
No. Which person is which?
Zach said number 1 is Mnuchin.
No. What's
my opinion?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I
So
believe
you
both these guys are probably right, but I don't have an opinion.
Okay. And then the last portion is a Secretary of Treasury.
Okay.
Boom. There we
Definitely
go.
Mnuchin is
So
one.
there you go. So, and then here's fun facts. The first person, mother, was a longtime investor in Bernie Madoff. They cashed out before the collapse.
Oh, wow.
They were sued, and they were told that they cannot recover those funds. I mean, they did recover $21 million in funds. And then the other person, fun fact, married to George. He's an economist. He also won the Nobel Prize. So
Okay.
there we go.
Speaking of nerd alert, there we go. That's a whole nerd household right there.
Boom.
That's great.
So
Janet Yellen.
So Marty has 2 points. Zach has 2 points, and Jeff, you have 1 point.
Oh,
Sorry,
it sounds like sympathy to me.
I took it away from you. You got 1 point. Here we go. Next one.
Doc for some reason.
You got docked. It took too long. Here we go.
I thought it was out of 3 points.
Huh?
I thought you said this was out of 3 points.
Yeah, but you guys didn't guess it on the first 3.
Yeah,
so-
the 3 is if you get the very top
Oh,
one.
I got it.
Yeah.
From
You're at 1 point.
Okay.
Here we go.
I did say, I did agree with Steve Mnuchin. Yeah.
Here we go. Boom. So
Well,
the
we've got
first
3.
one
We've got
is
an
Boston.
education, Boston College,
Boston College. The second person is University of Virginia, and a BA, and University of Chicago. They're a lawyer, and the third person is Harvard University
with a BA and a JD. So that's a lawyer from Harvard and a lawyer from Virginia.
Yeah, so this one's going to be really hard. Two of these people work for the Trump administration. One is a Biden person. I'm assuming no one wants to guess. Right? I'm going to move on unless you can make a guess. Anybody, Marty?
I have a guess, but I'm going to hold it in, and I'll probably be
Zach,
wrong.
you want to make a guess?
Nah.
Which one is which?
Not
Jeff?
yet.
No.
All right, here we go. Here's a hint. So the first person joined the labor union of Local 223 at age 21, and he state representative and was a mayor. The second person, aide to the education secretary, served as a solicitor of labor. And the third person is U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, principal deputy assistant general in the Civil Rights Division of the United States and Department of Justice.
And 2 Trumps and 1 Biden.
One. This is a toughie. Yes.
Whew,
so
dude.
we got the next hint will be which department we're looking at. So right now, Zach, do you know which one is Biden's and who it is?
I mean, I know which one is Biden, but I don't know who he is.
You can.
So,
you want to?
I'm
which
gonna
one is
wait.
Biden's? 1, 2, or
3 is
3?
going to be.
I don't know.
Marty doesn't know. Jeff, do you know which one is Biden's?
Oh,
I'm going to guess number 3 is
I know
Biden.
one.
He does
I
know.
know
He
one.
knows.
Which one is?
So I'm pretty sure that number 1 is going to be Marty Walsh and the labor secretary. I was focusing too hard on number 3.
Okay, so you're locking in 1. I'm going to do another hint, and it is the labor secretary. Anybody else want to announce your last choice? Jeff, which one do you want to lock in? 1, 2, or 3 for Biden?
I'm going to say 3 for Biden.
Biden 3. Marty, 1,
I'm
2.
going to say number 1 for Biden.
1 for Biden. Here's a
I'm
fun
sure I'm wrong.
fact.
Sure I'm wrong.
Number 1, he is a recovering alcoholic with more than 20 years of continuing sobriety in the 12-step program. Number 2, this person believed in the opportunity, the safety and the health administration has no role to play in the COVID, in manning the COVID. And number 3, that's interesting. And number 3 is this person resigned later on because they gave Jeffrey Epstein a great deal. So here we go. Boom. So Marty Walsh, Zach gets 2 points.
Zach gets 2.
Marty gets 1. Jeff gets none.
Goose egg, yep.
And these are the labor secretaries. This guy resigned because he gave Jeffrey Epstein a great deal.
Which he did, of course, long before he was appointed. It's just Epstein got more press, and suddenly he had to be pulled.
And then they found out. There we go. Let's
Okay.
Next
So
one.
Zach's 4, Marty's 3, Jeff's 1.
All right.
Yep. No, yeah, Jeff won.
That's total scores. Total scores.
Yep. Here we go. First person, St. John's University with a BA, and Georgetown University with an MS. Second person, Wake Forest with a BA.
Loyola.
Loyola University.
Loyola University.
AD, Georgetown University with LLM. United States Army War College. And third person is University of Tennessee BA, Air University MS. Does anybody want to guess 1, 2, or 3 who is the Biden administration, or more hints? Marty?
I'm just going to jump in, and I'm probably going to lose. Secretary of Defense Biden is number 2.
Number 2. Jeff, do you want a more guess or guess?
That wasn't what I was thinking, so I think I'll go more clues.
More clues, Zach?
I probably just lost.
That's what I was thinking as well, actually.
Are you going to go number 2 as well? Are you going to lock
Lloyd-
it in? All right, you guys are locked in.
Austin Biden.
Here we go. experience, worked as an aide to the United States House Committee on Foreign Affairs, served as a National Security Council and Chief of Staff. Number 2, Capitol Hill, as a council senator, assistant to the President of National Affairs, and senior director to the National Security Council. And number 3, veteran of the Navy, Air Force, held various leadership roles with
Calibre Systems.
Calibre Systems. I have no idea what Calibre Systems. Jeff, do you want to lock in one of these, or do you want more hints?
I'll just be a groupie and say 2's Biden. I'm
2's Biden. Here we go. It is the United States Secretary of Veteran Affairs. So you guys are struggling a little bit. Here's a fun fact. This person, professor of practices in Notre Dame,
We're
affairs and senior
Notre Dame's Keough School of Global Affairs, and also a visiting senior fellow at Carnegie's Technology and International Affairs program.
Can I still try to get a point?
Nope, you've already locked it in.
We're hosed, dude.
Well, no, for
Go
one.
ahead.
For one.
It's who
Can I
do
try
you
for
think?
one?
You're going to be 1, okay, but that you don't get points for that. And
I
fun
believe.
fact for number 2.
I mean, one's.
Marty,
Well,
could you read
one's
fun fact
Dennis
for number
McDonough.
2?
Yeah, number 2
whatever.
is he also called abolitionists who oppose slavery radical and mendacious and enemies of liberty. And he called abolitionists who opposed slavery radical, mendacious, and enemies of liberty, and stated that Confederate cause was honorable. Wow. I don't think that's a Biden person.
Yeah, and number 3.
Number 3 is the fun facts. IG of VA reported that so-and-so had used his power as head of the whistleblower office to end investigations into allies, and that he failed to provide basic reports to Congress on the office's operations. So 1, let's just leave that up there for a second. 1, you got McDonough, who's the Biden guy.
Yep.
1 is a simple resume of things that he's done. Both of the others are just stories of trouble and just jackassery, it's craziness.
All right, no points for anybody. Well,
Zach had like a last chance dart where I think he got the right answer, but I think it was after we had already done the
you already
scoring.
locked it in. Here we go.
I think so. Zach gets like a 0.3 points on that. I
Here we
think.
go.
Call it a tiebreaker for later on.
Yeah.
Number
I'm
1.
going to put a little T inside your circle as tie break.
Ohio State University, BS, Cleveland State University, JD, and then number 2, Yale University, BA, University of Michigan, MD. Marty, any guesses? Want to lock any in?
Nope.
Jeff?
I'm gonna wait.
Okay.
Mine would be a Hail Mary at this point.
Zach?
You know what? Let's go for it. I think 1 is going to be Marcia Fudge, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for Biden.
All right.
Wow.
Locked it in.
In that case, I'm going to do my gut feel, which is number 2 is Ben Carson, Housing and Urban Development.
Okay. So
That was my gut feel. That
you're
really
gonna
was my
lock
gut
that
feel.
in. All right. Here we
Based
go.
on Zach's guess, I'm going to take my.
I am playing conservative ball right here.
Here we go. This person is a U.S. representative of
Yes, Zach, we did it.
Chair of Congressional Black Caucus.
Yeah.
Number 2, director. He's in neurology at Johns Hopkins Children's Center. So Marty, I'm assuming.
Oh, I'm definitely jumping in. That's Ben Carson over there for
Ben
sure.
Carson, and number 1 is that's the Biden person, right?
Yes,
You're locking
yes,
that
yes,
in.
sir.
Let's fast forward. Yes, this is the urban development.
Because I need all the points I can get there.
And the president of Delta. So we're going to do
Delta
that.
Sigma Theta, and he
surprisingly, Ben Carson is considered a pioneer in neurology.
Yep.
True story.
I think it's a classic example of someone who's got a lot of great technical skill and almost no common sense.
Yep.
All right, it is now 5-4-7. Marty's 5, Jeff 4, and Zach
Here
7.
we go. Start rolling. Boom.
And half my 3 goes to. I was thinking Ben Carson, but I just didn't have the guts to go until Zach went.
Here we go. Number 1, Louisiana State,
LSU, Berkeley, and Harvard.
University of California, Berkeley, BA, Harvard, and then University of Maryland of College Park, BA. Anybody Zach, you want to lock any in?
Are you giving us the mix of friends and foes here, or is it?
I'm giving you the mix. Always the mix.
One and two. One
Two
and two.
Trump, one Biden.
2 Trump, 1 Biden.
You just have to pick which one is Biden.
I guess it makes sense. Only Trump has had 2
Yeah,
cabinet
Two,
members.
two is Biden.
I'm going to jump in and go with number 2 is Biden.
2 is Biden. Zach
Two
is
is
2 is
Biden.
Biden. Jeff, what you doing? Locking in, or you want to wait?
I want to wait because I had an idea who that was.
Wait,
And it
he needs
wasn't
more
Biden.
points. Here we go. This part, number 1, Vice President of Federal Relations of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, President and General Counsel of American Electric Power. The number 2 person is Governor, State Attorney General. And number 3, service in the United States Army, Vice President of Ford Motor Company. Jeff, which one are you locking in?
Man, I should know who these people are. My God. Should be easy, huh?
It should be pretty easy. I don't know, but you.
Yeah.
Come on, Jeff. Lock it in.
I'm going to go 3 Biden.
3 Biden.
I think I already locked in 2 for Biden. I want to specify. I think it's Gina Raimondo.
Here we go. It is
For the,
United States
Commerce.
Secretary of Energy.
Secretary.
And fun fact, this. Here you go.
He referred to the U.S. LPG sales as spreading freedom gas throughout the world in an official DOAU memo. Fun fact for number 2 was made a commander of the Royal Order of the Polar Star, first class, by the King of Sweden for her work in fostering relations between Michigan and Sweden to promote clean energy economy. And then for Brulette, U.S. Army veterans and the parents of 9 children, all of whom the couple homeschooled. Wow.
There was not that many fun facts for him. So you both get
That's a
number
lot of
3.
teaching.
Good, Jeff. You lost.
They get how many points do they get? Was it
They
2?
get 3 points.
Did they get 3?
Yep.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right, we got time for like 1 or 2 more. Here we go.
Let's start rolling quickly on these. Here we go. The first one, Harvard University, and number 2 is going to be Harvard and
Holyoke.
I don't know what.
Mount Holyoke College,
All right.
BA.
Marty, you want to lock
Biden
in?
won.
Biden won. Jeff, quickly.
Yeah, I'll go Biden 1.
You're gonna lock it in 1. Zach,
I'm gonna wait.
you're gonna wait. Here we go. The first person is the United Navy Reserves through a direct commission officer and the mayor. The second person is the vice president of the Bank of America and labor secretary of department. Do you want to lock it in? 1 or 2?
1 for
All
Biden.
right, here we go. This is the transportation person. We already know who this is. This fun fact won the 2020 Iowa Democrat caucus versus Bernie Sanders. And the second person is married to Mitch McConnell.
It's Pete.
There we go.
I know who she is.
So we got Marty and Jeff 3 points and Zach 2 points. Here we go. We're almost done. The first person, Calvin College, BA. Second person, Central Connecticut State University, BS, and University of Connecticut, whatever, MS, whatever that is, education. Marty, you want to lock any in?
1 is Biden.
1 is Biden. Jeff?
I'm surprised he picked 1 as Biden. I'm going to go 2 as Biden.
2 is Biden.
2 is Biden. Okay, here we go. We're going to run through these. So a political fundraiser chair. Marty, you're going to be upset about this one.
Two is the Secretary of Education.
So this person is a fundraiser person.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry.
Thanks,
Fun
dude.
fact, this person.
Let me in. I walked into that.
Associates. He picked the associates.
Of all the people that I picked. Oh, my
Where's
God.
one? This person's fun fact. This person's family is one of the wealthiest person in Michigan, and this person has a doctorate in education. Here we go. Quickly, Columbia, BA, Harvard, AD, and super smart, and Huntington College, BA, University of Alabama Law. Anybody want to lock these in? Marty? Jeff? Quickly.
No.
I'm gonna go long shot 2 Biden.
I'm
To
skipping.
Biden. Okay, Zach.
Skipping.
All right, here we go. The United States Department of Justice and United States Attorney General, D.C. Circuit Court.
2 is Biden.
Judge. And
2 is Biden. 2 is
Okay,
Merrick
here we go.
Garland.
And then number 3 is United States Attorney for Southern District and Senator. We can all guess who that is. This is the Attorney General. And the first one, he was Robert Mullen's good friend. They went to weddings. The second one is partially colorblind. He uses a list to match his suits to his ties.
That is so great.
And this person, fun fact for Jeff Sessions, is not so fun. Because he
is it Thomas figures?
The Ku Klux Klan was okay until he found out they smoked pot.
Wow.
Wow.
That was interesting.
That's his line.
Yep. Here
That's
we
your
go.
deal breaker,
We're almost done. I think this is the last one. So United States Military Academy, Auburn. This one's going to be tough. United States Military Academy, Harvard, George Washington University, PhD, Central Washington University, BA, National Defense, MA. Anybody want to lock them in? Marty?
I want to say 3 is Trump.
3 is
I'm gonna skip.
You got to give me the Biden guy.
Jeff? I'll pick number 2 is Biden.
2 is Biden. Jeff? He's locked.
Pass.
All right. Passing, Zach?
Yep, skip.
Okay, here we go. This person, number 1, is the 12th Commander of United States Central Command, 33rd Vice Chief of Staff. Number 2, Extensive Vice President of Aerospace Industries, Chief of Staff at Heritage Foundation.
Pretty sure I'm wrong.
Yeah, you probably are. And the number 3 person is Command of the United States Joint Forces, Command of the Concurrent Service of NATO, and he transformed Commander United States Central Command form.
I believe
Anybody?
one is Biden.
1 is Biden. Jeff? 1 or 2?
Yeah, I'll go with Zach. 1 is Biden.
1. Okay, here we go. This is the defense person. Here's the fun facts. We're going to go ahead and boom. 1 is Biden. So we got this one was tough because they were actually all very qualified.
Yeah.
Mark Epser was less qualified, but Mathis was very qualified. And his nickname is War Monk. So
Yep.
that's a thing. And apparently Lloyd Austin likes to refer to himself as a third person all the time. So that'll be interesting. But he doesn't talk to the media.
But it sounds like he is a person that people love to work for, and he is Mr. like team building guy of all time, and so that's exciting, actually.
Who won, Jeff?
Zach won by 1 point, 16 to 15 to 13.
Yeah,
Wow.
I failed.
We're in the lead, and you let it all go. And we
did.
all remember you let it all go. And
In the first 3 questions. Three questions. So.
On Betsy, man, I lost it.
Let's
On
not
Betsy.
forget that Marty lost because of Betsy DeVos.
Didn't see that coming. That's
Don't
painful.
call it a comeback. I've been here for years.
That's painful.
Good job.
Well done. All right, so Mr.
I
Zach,
cheated off Zach's paper the whole time. I cheated off.
You just followed through. All
I
right.
probably would have gotten last if I hadn't followed Zach's lead a couple of times. I'm willing to admit where I got my information.
this is good. You're reading the room, is what you're doing.
I did call some things early though. I did get 3s when Zach got 2. I mean, I did all right.
I mean, at a certain point, I was just playing to keep my lead. I didn't want to lose out.
That was a good call.
Did we notice anything in common with some of those picks?
The education almost seemed almost always to favor the Biden pick. I mean, I think there was maybe one that had a really good education that wasn't the Biden pick.
Yeah, Biden's are very educated, and almost every one of Biden's had a previous job in government.
Right.
There wasn't anybody in Biden's that didn't have a government job before, where they were either they all know how the system functions. And this is something Marty talks about a lot. The reason that he needs to do that is because a lot of these departments have been gutted out.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to bring in pros that know where everything is. So on day one, they're not running around with their heads cut off. They're also, if you put in the new person that doesn't know how the department works, you don't want them to reinvent the wheel. We have a good government. We need it to be put back the way it was, not a person that starts from scratch. They need to know where everything is and they can add on.
And hates government.
And hates
back to the epistemology of the whole point of so if you're a Trump supporting Republican who's coming in and gutting the thing and doing a great job at gutting it, you're going to hear a lot of support as being a good secretary or something like that. If that's where you're at, we now, and this is where I lean into Zach, what you got for us. Zach, are you a Democrat?
I am a registered Democrat.
Do you feel like you're a Democrat to the party, or are you did you end up there in this election? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I think it's time we talk a little perspective of where we're coming from the left a little bit here.
Yeah. So it's more so on every down ballot thing, I will tend to vote the Democrats because of where I'm located. I'm located in a very progressive area in the Bay Area in San Francisco. So I tend to vote, like the people who represent the Bay Area tend to be on the more progressive side of the Democrats.
Right.
So in that aspect, I don't really have a problem voting for the Democrats. But there are definitely some Democrats who are more Southern, or maybe some Midwestern Democrats who if we were in any other country, if we were in Europe, we would not be in the same party.
Okay. So as you go through this tonight, are you a California Republican? I'm sorry, a California Democrat, sort of Pelosi style, or are you further left than that as you present this tonight? I just kind of want to get your view. What's wrong?
More.
I was talking about the poster behind Zach.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's got his Bernie piece up there. Yeah.
For the record, that poster has been amazing to help me make friends in college. So
absolutely, dude. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of the headspace where I am. I'm more of a AOC, or for me specifically, a Jackie Spears type of Democrat, progressive.
Okay.
Probably the farthest left in the party.
Okay. I just want to lay that out as we begin, and then I will let you pop it up whenever you're ready. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
And then Zach, it's yours, dude. Let's walk through this thing. You've done some work, and I really appreciate you being here and doing all this. So I'll let you have it. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is the Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack. He might be a familiar face to some of you because he was Obama's Secretary of Agriculture. And I know Marty definitely has some opinions and his own ideas on Tom Vilsack and why he might be the right choice. But from where I'm coming from, I don't necessarily view him to be the right choice, mainly because I don't believe in the principle of just being better than Trump. I believe in the idea of actually being the best we can possibly be. And I don't think Tom Vilsack is that. And if you look at Tom Vilsack's career, yes, he was part of Obama's, he was the Secretary of Agriculture for Obama. But after he left that position, he then went on to become a chief executive at a large corporate agriculture dairy lobbying firm. And so we really need to ask ourselves, do we want a corporate lobbyist in this position? For me, the answer is no, and I am disappointed in this pick, especially since we had someone like Marcia Fudge, who really was advocating and pushing to be in Secretary of Agriculture, and she was deemed to be suitable for a different cabinet pick. So I think this was a missed opportunity.
So okay, so I want to debate that just a little bit, because while you can couch it that he is also a lobbyist, a paid lobbyist, he's also a two-time governor. He's also been a Secretary of Agriculture in Iowa. He also understands farming, and he understands the differences that happened when corn ethanol subsidies came into place and the way corporate agriculture has taken over. He was involved and invested during those times. During the Trump administration, I don't know if many people know this or not, but the meat packing companies are now allowed to do their own testing of the meat. They're doing their own inspections of the meat. We don't even send in FDA inspectors to the meat packing place to come in and randomly check anymore. That's under Trump. So fair enough that you may not like him, but he will reestablish what it means to have a food supply that's under review and at least put some things back in place that literally were taken out of place. So I'm not sure if the argument that he's not the right guy or not. I think having someone who knows what the position is really important right away, especially for the first 2 years.
And what did Marsha Fudge? What was her previous job?
She was a representative from Ohio, and I believe she was a chair on the House Agriculture Committee.
Yeah, and she's a solid person. I don't have a problem with Marsha.
But
I
she's
just don't
not
think
she's not as qualified as this person.
she
is.
wasn't a governor, and being
But
a governor.
she also
really-
wasn't a corporate lobbyist, though.
But she also wasn't a governor. And the thing is running a government. It's literally what every one of these secretaries and what's underneath them is its own government. And I really think that's. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one, Zach.
All right.
Let's move on.
So this is the Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, and she was the former governor of Rhode Island. So progressives do have some problems with her because while she was a governor, she cut pensions for labor unions, government labor unions, and that soured a lot of opinions on the left. So for that, I have a lesser view of her, although I do think I don't view her to be corrupt in the way I view Vilsack and some of the others to be corrupt.
Well, I just want to hold on.
I do
I
disagree.
don't like the whole. I gotta take you up on the word corrupt, because we can't use words for people that are actually corrupt and people that are part of a lobbying group that we have. That doesn't equal corruption. There's a lot of people that leave their place of work and they go make money. That doesn't equal them being corrupt.
I would disagree. I think that is corruption.
That has a lot of corruption, true corruption.
Do you feel that it's illegal?
It should be illegal.
Okay, so but we're not talking about the theory. We're talking about reality, and that when you use the word corrupt, Tom Vilsack is not corrupt. He followed the laws and the rules. And I think what we're getting to is, and this is okay, but it's more about neoliberalism versus maybe true progressive philosophy. And you're much more of a true progressive. I'm more of a neoliberal, where I recognize we have a corporate interaction with governance. And until we change, which I'm 100% for, a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics and to force it to be publicly funded. But until we get that done, Zach, I don't feel like you can call that person corrupt because they had a job at a bank or worked in a lobbying firm.
You're also putting them in with people that are actually corrupt. The people that we just saw in the administration that were actually corrupt, to a theory of how you feel is corrupt, but they did nothing wrong in the eyes of the law. And lumping them in with actual people that have been convicted or have had censures or committees that have said that they're corrupt is just I don't agree with that statement. You can find a different word, but corrupt would be unfair.
If I could come in as the middle of the road here, I would suggest that what Zach's really saying is if it turns out that they've been bought and paid for and they still have their allegiances to their past careers, they may prove to be corrupt. But I think we'd all agree that it will require corrupt action to make them corrupt. They've simply because they have had a past job or an influence doesn't mean that they are incapable of impartial decisions for the betterment of what they're in charge of. Right, Zach?
Then I'll change the word to unethical. I find it unethical.
Well, I would argue that, if you work for McDonald's, you get fired, and now you work for Wendy's. That itself isn't unethical. It's when you work for Wendy's and you're passing recipes back to McDonald's, that would be unethical. Or if you're trying to tank Wendy's to help McDonald's, that would also be unethical. So I guess I'd go as far as to say they have some sort of they have to prove themselves to be impartial on that issue to you. I would argue they haven't had a chance to be unethical yet.
By the way, I love this discussion. This is good stuff.
I would argue that Vilsack kind of has had that chance. During his time as Secretary of Agriculture, we did see the rise of the consolidation under large agricultural industries. And so we see that consolidation, the growth of agricultural monopolies. Then he leaves office and starts lobbying on behalf of said monopolies, and now he's going back into office. That's kind of part of the revolving door of Washington.
However, the trend towards corporate farming has been going on for 50 years, has it not?
But does that mean that we have to have someone who is part of that corporate lobbying world to be leading the Secretary of Agriculture?
I guess that's the question. There's a lot of questions there to unpack. Does the Secretary of Agriculture have a responsibility to small farms or anyone who farms, or should he be supporting industries based on the acreages they farm? Or, I mean, we could go round and round and round, but I think it's definitely right to say he has a bias. He seems to have shown a bias towards corporate farming. How's that?
I agree with Jeff. I think the word biased is probably a better word than unethical. And also, Zach, you said that the way I think of it is, you said that he went to lobbying after his actions. That just tells me that's his beliefs. Just because he believes in it and he was put in that position based on his beliefs, and then he went and lobbied and his beliefs didn't change, that doesn't make him unethical. That's his beliefs. And Biden knows his beliefs, and he put in a person with those beliefs. That there has nothing to do with ethics.
What would you have wanted from Fudge? What would have been a primary sort of outlook on agriculture that would have been different, Zach?
So I think what I would have wanted for the agricultural department is to focus more on hunger and a little less on the corporate farming.
That is
another big
absolute
difference
discussion
between
that I've been hearing about, is that's actually a rift in the left of, should the agricultural department be much more focused on meeting the needs of hunger, or should it be in managing ag policy, which is a financial element of our country, which is, I mean, it's still one of the 5th largest industries in the country. It's what we eat. It's what we make our fiber with. I mean, it's a huge thing. And so I have heard this, Zach. That's why I wanted to lift that up, because that's to say more about why you think it should be the place where we deal with hunger.
I just think, like, from the progressive standpoint, it is what matters more, looking out for the average person and those who fall into a situation where they might be on SNAP benefits. They might need to get that government assistance. So I think that's more important than the more corporate agricultural side of things.
And, to piggyback on that, there has been agricultural questions where basically the farms, they come into a situation to where, like during COVID, when they shut down, they just basically destroyed their product, versus having a connection with the government where they should have been saying, hey, we're about to destroy this government. Come pick it up and give it to people that are hungry. But they made a calculation that it's cheaper for them to destroy it than to give it away, because there was no system from the government to come by and pick it up where the farm wouldn't have to pay for the product. I think that's a huge miss, but that was during the Trump administration. I'm hoping they will correct these things where we find out, hey, when you come into a situation where you have to destroy product, let the government know, and we'll come and pick it up and give it to people that are in need, versus destroying it because it's cheaper.
What if the corporate farms are the lowest cost provider, which provides food cheaper for SNAP recipients?
That's also a good idea. Maybe they just need a direct.
So I guess then the question becomes, are farm subsidies more important than SNAP?
Yeah.
I mean, it gets very complex. I would argue without any decisions, we won't know if he's inappropriately biased or not. I mean, in my opinion, but
one of the core traditional Democratic policies that literally changed the Great Depression was what FDR did around agriculture, and he empowered the small farm, the family farm, which then empowered the small businesses in the towns because the farmers had money for the first time. And if you engage the producer at the base who's producing something that's based on, work and light and land and faith that it's going to work out, it actually percolates through the economy. That money percolates through the economy 7 to 9 times going up. So in terms of changing the economics of this country for all those red states out there, the Department of Agriculture might be one of the most important economic engines to restart some of those cities and towns, because we've gone down the route of corporate agriculture, and both Republicans and Democrats have played in that water. I can tell you, I remember when it happened, and they've all played in that water. And so for them, we'll see what Biden does. Biden knows that a strong economic policy has to have family farms and small businesses in it. And I believe Tom Vilsack is going to at least put the meat protections back in place. Nobody understands how potentially hazardous, just like with COVID-19, getting rid of the panel that could take care of pandemics. We've gotten rid of our food safety.
Yeah.
Do you know what that could do so fast in a country? It can destroy a city overnight with a bunch of bad meat. And we're just living that way. We're just chugging along, talking about, Vilsack or fudge. This is our reality. It's so broken every day on everything. And Trump has left us there. So anyway, that's the end of my sermon on that. But
all right. Well, let's see the third person. We skipped over commerce because it's.
Yeah, I don't think there's much.
Yeah, there's not much about this.
Right.
She's in the pocket of the Chamber of Commerce, I'm sure. I'm sure I would disagree with her on a lot.
All right.
I mean, she's a venture capitalist, so there's that. She's a step up because she's not a titan of industry. That's what I'll say.
Okay. Cool. Who's the third person?
And then Lloyd. So this is the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. And he is someone who I am very against because he was on the board of Raytheon. Yes, he does have a strong history of being in the military, which could add to his credentials. Some might argue that him being in the military is going against the idea of civilian control of the military, which is a fair question. I believe Mattis got a waiver as well, for he was a former general. So Lloyd Austin was also a former general. He has since gotten the waiver and he has been confirmed as the Secretary of Defense. I'm against this because of his strong connection towards Raytheon.
So he was on the board of Raytheon after he retired?
Yes.
And what's Raytheon?
It's an aircraft manufacturer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and they make military aircraft. All aircraft manufacturers basically make military aircraft. But
so the reason why I don't like it is Raytheon gets, I guess, in a simple term, Raytheon gets their checks from the Secretary of Defense and from this branch of, or this executive place. And so you have Lloyd Austin, someone who was on the board of Raytheon, is now going to be on the Secretary of Defense signing the checks to Raytheon. That seems like a conflict of interest.
Well, it's only a conflict of interest if there is if he's doing that. But the question is, are you looking at that as a bigger problem than the issues that he's going to be tackling? And we need his military mind to make sure that we're safe, which is a lot more important than it's not like they're going to cancel. It's not like they're not going to make a aircraft. They're going to either give it to one company or another company. It's a huge budget. So I don't really care which one gets it. What I'm more interested in is his military brain, to have to deal with North Korea, Iran, Russia, all these countries that this person is going to be dealing with. That's a lot bigger of an issue than which manufacturer creates the next airline ship that shoots bullets.
I think Zach again is pointing out a potential problem. I think it's a fair issue.
Yeah, I mean, so from where I'm coming from, it's not who is necessarily getting these defense contracts. It's the fact that I'm worried he's going to dole out money to Raytheon for the defense contracts. From the progressive point of view, you want to see less money going out to the defense industry, because we want to start rolling back on our involvement across the world.
That's controlled by a budget, though. That's not controlled by the Secretary of Defense.
So I kind of agree. I'm sorry I've missed all the comments for several minutes here. I see there's several because I had it on full screen. I was just kind of watching this. Zach, let's move through this without the shade on each one, and then let's go back and bring shade. Okay, can we just pound through who they are, and then we can come back and find out the things you don't like about them? Because I appreciate our thing, but I think people kind of want to move through them a little faster, and then we can come back to them. And then we bring some of your best shade as you need to, but let's move through them.
So this is the Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, and he was the State Education Commissioner of Connecticut.
All right. And we saw him in our game.
This is the Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, and she was the former governor of Michigan. I think she was the first female governor of Michigan as well.
Yep.
This is Javier Becerra, I believe, Secretary of Health and Human Services. He was the Attorney General of California.
I see. Just 1 second. Just so people know, I can't have anyone join us during the middle of the stream. It kind of messes it all up, and we set audio beforehand. So let's connect another time about a different show on that. So just to let you know where we're at. Okay, go ahead.
This is Alejandro Mayorkas. He is going to be the Secretary of Homeland Security, and he was the former Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security.
Does he scare you?
No, he's actually one of the better picks in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Marcia Fudge, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. She was a representative in Ohio, I believe, Ohio's 1st district.
And this is
we have Deb Holland, Secretary of Interior.
That person you mentioned before.
Sorry, what is?
Yeah, she got a job.
So she got a job, and then probably more important job where she can actually do a lot better job in that job for people than agriculture. That has to be completely rebuilt. But let's
cycle back.
That's just my.
Yeah, we'll go back. Yeah.
So this is the Secretary of Interior, Deb Holland. She was the former representative from New Mexico. She was also the New Mexico Democratic State Chairman. So she ran the state's Democratic Party. She was also on some key environmental related House positions, House committees, Chair and Vice Chair. Here we have Marty Walsh, Secretary of Labor, former mayor of Boston, and I believe he was in ACE's slideshow as well.
Yep.
Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and he was the former Deputy Secretary of State. Here we have Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. He was obviously in the Democratic primary, and he was the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana. And he served in the military as well. Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen. She was formerly on the Federal Reserve Chair under the Obama administration, and I believe she also played a role in the Clinton administration as well. Here we have the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Dennis McDonough. He was the former White House Chief of Staff for Obama. Here we have Attorney General Merrick Garland. He was formerly on the Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit, and he was nominated by Obama for the Supreme Court, but the Republicans pretty shamelessly kind of stopped that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Truly
that is
shamelessly.
yeah. So that is the end of the cabinet. Now these are cabinet level positions. So this is White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain. He used to be Biden's Chief of Staff when he was VP, and he's worked with Biden for a long time.
Wasn't he on what's his name's presidential campaign? Bloomberg?
I'm not sure. From what I read, he's been a close advisor for Biden for a long time.
Okay. I'm maybe thinking of another guy.
And then for the for the APA, or the EPA. Sorry. This is Michael Reagan, and he has done a lot in South Carolina politics. He has worked with environmental agencies there. He was also the NCOEQ secretary. Here we have Neera Tanden, Director of Office and Management and Budget. She was part of Center for American Progress. This is going to be the United States Trade Representative, Catherine Tai, and she has done a variety of things. One of them was on the Ways and Means Committee. And she's an expert in Chinese relations. So that's going to be very important for the upcoming administration. This is Avril Haines, Director of National Intelligence. She was the Deputy National Security Advisor, and she was a architect of Obama's drone policy.
She's also a badass.
Administrator of the Small Business Administration, Isabel Casillas Guzman, and she was a small business advocate. Chair of Council of Economic Advisors, Cecilia Ruse, and she was the Dean of the Princeton School of Public and International Affairs. This is United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas Greenfield. She is a veteran in this department. She's been here for decades, and she was the former ambassador to Liberia.
By the way, as we're going, can you see, look at the diversity of this group. I mean, this really is an impressive, you're really getting what, like Biden said, like what America looks like.
Yeah.
He did an amazing job and broke a lot of barriers with a lot of these people making, either being the first this or the second this, whichever group that they're part of. It is very impressive. We have to recognize how big of a deal, because it's not like he has a flurry of them, the first women to do this. He's got all kinds of first or seconds ever. Go ahead, sorry.
And then speaking of firsts and seconds and glass shattering people, John Kerry. So U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. And this is a brand new cabinet level position created by Joe Biden. Kerry obviously was a presidential candidate. He was Obama's Secretary of State, if I'm correct. And that concludes this list of cabinet and cabinet level positions.
That's a new position, right?
Yeah. This is a new position.
All right. So Marty, you want to just tackle Zach's hot ones he really does not like?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know what your top three are really. What are the blinking red light ones for you, Zach, that I think, give you the floor, man. Because I don't disagree with some of the things you say either, just so you know. We just live in the real world. So that's my main check.
And I like to know that, when Zach's saying, hey, this person was on this.
Knowing that guy worked for Raytheon, that's important. That's good.
So if you want to bounce back and remind us who they are, if you want to, or I can lose this thing.
You can lose it if you want.
Okay, cool.
So top three that I like or top three that I dislike?
Either one. Go. Yeah.
Let's go positive for a second. Okay. I really, really like Deb Haaland for Secretary of the Interior. I think that it was an amazing decision from the Biden administration, and I think it was his best decision. For more context, Deb Haaland will be the first Native American woman. So talking about first, she will be the first Native American woman to head the Secretary of the Interior. Why is this so important? The Bureau of Indian Affairs is under the
Department of
Secretary
Interior.
Right. And so this will be the first time that you have a Native American in control of this. This is also really important because Deb Haaland is a massive, massive climate activist, climate supporter, and she is going to be in charge of most federal lands. So this is a massive win for the progressive movement. I think it's just a massive win for Americans and the world in general.
Yep. Our story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a potentially amazing story of what healing can be in this country under Biden. It really is.
The next one I guess I would talk about is Xavier Becerra. I think he is very good for his role, and he is once again the Secretary of Health and Human Services. So he has experience as the California Attorney General. And one thing that he did was he secured a massive $575 million settlement with Sutter Health following revelations of abusing its market power. So I think that's going to be really vital considering his role. He's also been a strong Medicare for All advocate, which is something I'm, of course, in favor of. So I think this is another win for the progressives. And then So we can go to Marcia Fudge. She is a win in multiple aspects. Here, I can go to Marcia Fudge. And there. So I think she's a progressive and she is minded on helping the average American. She helped secure $3 million in federal grant for a housing authority in her district. And she actually helped introduce the Predatory Mortgage Lending Practices Reduction Act of 2009. So like I said, she is going to do well in this role. The one thing that I kind of wanted to bring up was she had actually specifically said, you don't always need to have a black person for HUD. As you can recall, Ben Carson was the only African-American in the cabinet, was for HUD, and HUD has kind of become the stereotypical, let's put the black person of color in this position.
Yeah.
So she had advocated against that, and of course, she graciously accepted it when she was given this position, but I did think that was kind of interesting to see. But once again, I think she'd be great at that position.
And you do agree that she can do a lot more help for people in need in that HUD position than the agricultural position.
I think she could, in either she would.
I'm just saying they didn't put in a lackey, a guy that didn't know what to do, what he's doing in the agriculture position, or someone that's going to completely not blow up that department. That person was put in, like Marty has been saying, to redo that whole, to put it back together because it's been got it out.
It's that too, and I was thinking about this too. It's also similar to having Bernie sitting at the chair of the budget committee. Having Vilsack has sat down with Monsanto before. He has called their bluff before based on what Obama told him to do. And so some of this is immediate fights that are about to happen within the first 6 months of going, oh, by the way, there's a new sheriff in town. I don't expect Vilsack to last a year in that office, to be honest with you. I think some of these are going to come in, they're going to lay on the beach, they're going to do some things to reinstate it, and then there's going to be priorities that emerge out of this administration. I see a lot of pragmatism. I see more liberal pragmatism for progressive ideas than I expected out of Joe Biden. And I expected him to be pretty far left on some things. But so now give us your 3 scare points. Let's go with it. At least for as we kick this thing off. We're 3 or 4 days in, right? We're just starting.
So I think we've already covered Lloyd Austin and Tom Vilsack well enough.
Okay.
So the next person who is, I guess, high on the scare point is Antony Blinken or Tony Blinken. He is someone who, call him biased, unethical, corrupt, whatever word we're going to use. I think that he is wrong for this position. He has a lot of dealings with the consulting firm West Executives. Mm-hmm. And one of the loopholes that a lot of people get around is they don't have to identify themselves as a lobbyist because they call themselves a consultant. Yep. And so Blinken has kind of used that. So he's worked for people like Facebook, McKinsey, Blackstone, and it doesn't send the best message when you're working for those kind of people. You want, from the progressive point of view, you want as little corporate connections as possible. So I think that's another aspect to my viewpoint, is that you don't want those corporate connections. So that's where I'm coming from.
Corporate purity test. He fails that.
Corporate purity. It's I understand that, but he's the Secretary of State. Again, I understand that he does have corporate tie-ins when he was. I'm not a fan of these purity tests because I don't think people that are in private, when they're not in government, should be questioned where they're making their money. They can make their money anywhere, and as long as they're not put in positions that directly affect that, I don't see how Secretary of State. That's going to be more of a policy thing. They're not going to be really touching. Now, if he starts working on fixing Facebook, then I will this is where those points that Zach makes good maybe flags in the future that will come up if he's doing that. But until he gets to that point, I don't see how Secretary of State and whatever corporation he used to work for really makes any difference.
I'm reminded of a classic joke. They asked Jesse Jackson why he robbed banks, and he said, "That's where the money is."
Jesse James.
Jesse James. I say Jesse Jackson.
Yeah.
Yes,
The Rainbow Coalition was really more of a gang that robbed banks. No, Jesse James said that's where the money is at the banks. So I would just say, when you retire from the military as a general, when you've worked your level up to being cabinet level expert on subject matter, the people who can afford you are going to be corporations. I think it makes sense. Saying, for example, that now the Secretary of Defense worked for Raytheon, that is good. I think that's an important thing to know. But does that make him unable to be a valid Secretary of Defense? Absolutely not. It just, there needs to be an ethical check that he's not kicking contracts to Raytheon unethically. Obviously, it would be important to know that he's divested completely from Raytheon, including his 401ks, things like that. But I mean, just because someone worked for a corporation, I mean, I get the idea that we'd like everyone to be ma and pa, smart and organic, and worked only at food banks for the last 20 years. But I would argue that that's kind of the same argument as you shouldn't listen to mainstream media because it's corporate. You should listen to Doug's blog, who has no checks, no balances, never been employed. I mean, you got to kind of, I mean, to me, just corporate bad doesn't really work for me, but I get the concept.
And I get the concept as well. And my only point is this is where I get a little bit bogged down with the same thing that the MAGA crowd goes, because they always want people that are breakers. They're new. They've never been in roles. They want to break the system. I don't want a person that breaks the system. I want the best of the best of the best. And guess what happens when the best of the best is no longer in government? They get gobbled up by corporations to help them because they're the best of the best. So if we're going to have the best of the best in this government to do what we can, those people probably have worked for the biggest corporations, multi-billion, trillion-dollar corporations, because those corporations also need those people. They're not going to hire random people to do their work. They're not going to hire Betsy DeVos unless they're trying to get a lobby for them. Now, if you're a lobbyist, there definitely needs to be a look into that. But if you're just working in corporations, I also find it as, like in sports, maybe you're a good scout as well. So even if he worked for Facebook, maybe he knows more information that he can offer the government to make a good deal with Facebook. And until we see them actually making acts that are devious or bad, I don't think we can call them out for that. But again, it's professional, the best of the best, always get good work. And we need them back in this government. We shouldn't shun them because they worked for Microsoft or Facebook.
Yeah, but I do want to credit Zach. I think his concerns, they're valid, very valid concerns.
So, I mean, Ace, you brought up a good point about actual policies, right? So, one of the reasons why I don't like Blinken is he actually went against Biden. So this is credit to Biden. When Obama did his drone strikes against Libya, Blinken was a very large proponent of that. While to Biden's credit, Biden was very much against it. So I don't want someone who has shown war hawkish behavior to be the Secretary of State, because I am very much anti-war as much as possible.
I can't argue. I would assume that Biden already knows that. I would also say that Biden's getting people that they're still going to be on the same page with him on these things. So,
well, and I think it's also an indicator of, we've had 2 or 3 secretaries of state that have been sort of rock stars. Like Hillary Clinton was a rock star Secretary of State. Pompeo, in his own world, has been a rock star Secretary of State. This guy he's a wonk.
Yeah.
He's going to approach the Iran thing from a wonkish perspective. I mean, he's not a personality driven guy. He's not coming in as the deal maker. He's a wonk, and that's a fine thing, but he's the 4th in line for the president as the Secretary of State.
No one knows who he is. It is unusual.
So yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that says to me that when Joe and he talked about it, he was like, here are my priorities that I need done. Can you get them done? That's a very different thing than can you represent freedom to the Middle East for the next 3 years, Hillary, and wear some sweet glasses. I mean, very different approach.
And he's also one of those people I don't think he'll be there for 4 years. I think some of these people in Biden's administration, they're the real high-end pros. They're in there to get the whole thing going. They might play some bad guy, good guy type of thing, the sheriff in town, and then they'll cut out, and then Biden will put in another person that will.
It also makes me wonder how bad the State Department is to put a person like that in. Like maybe we're so far behind in the State Department that we need a guy like him for 6 months to a year to be like, oh my God, we've got to rebuild the systems that they've been tearing apart.
Pretty much there's a report that there's thousands and thousands of jobs that have never been filled during the Trump administration. And who else better to fill those jobs than a professional that was there, that knows people, that knows he's a good he knows how to hire the correct person. He knows how to scout. You have to go and scout these people and go, I know this person. I can trust this person to do this job, a job that hasn't been done for 4 years. So I have a feeling that's what he's doing with some of these peoples, because a Secretary of State that is an unknown really is a little unique.
In this day and age,
I mean, I kind of understand what you're saying, but
well, to Zach's point, if that's the case, then you're getting the worst case scenario, Zach, because you're getting a corporatist who's going to rebuild a vacuum of positions with the people from the corporate world. So as a maybe an arch progressive, I can see where you would have some fears about that. I would, if I was watching the Bush administration do this, I would have a lot of fears.
Again, though, we got to remember, Trump put a guy who wanted to destroy the EPA as the head of the EPA, who then built a soundproof phone booth so he could make his business deals, I guess. How many people in his cabinet? How many people in Trump's cabinet left in the first couple of years because they were using military jets to fly around the country on vacations and stuff? I mean, let's just all take a breath too. That I think the concerns you brought up, Zach, are sound, but I mean, we're just in a whole different. I mean, we have gone from a 1s across the board to like an 8s across the board cabinet. Even with the concerns, I think you'd agree some are 7s or 6s. I don't think we're in a whole different stratosphere from the Trump cabinet.
That's a good question, Zach. Do you have anybody that's like, if 10 is perfect person, 1 being Trump level, unqualified, we're really into danger. Who do you have anybody that's below a 5 that you're like, wow, this person really should not be in this role? He's not qualified. He's going to really lead this country in the wrong direction. Really, like, strictly, do you have anybody under 5? Honestly,
under 5, I don't think so.
So we're dealing with above average and exceptional. Can we agree to that, right? If 5 is average and anything under 5 is below average, you're saying we're dealing with above average and exceptional?
I would say we're dealing with people who are 5s and above. So that is average
to exceptional.
That's good.
Sure.
And how much out of all of those cabinet positions, and you don't have to do the math, but how many of those are closer to 5s than they are 10s?
I would say that closer to 5s, maybe 1/3 or less from like the progressive perspective.
So not bad, right?
Not bad.
You're saying that 2/3 are closer to progressive and 1/3 isn't, to a person that ran like a centrist. I mean, that's pretty. You probably good. And based on that conversation, then you probably have to give Joe Biden like an 8 on the progressive side, right? I mean, wouldn't you?
I would say that it's more broken up into about 1/3 of genuinely good progressive picks from Joe Biden, which I will give him credit for. 1/3 centrist picks who I disagree with, but I can see their qualifications and I can see why I picked them. And 1/3 of where I find them unethical or biased or whatever word we're going to use.
And is that better than you thought it would be under a Biden administration?
I think there were some pleasant surprises, especially with like Javier Becerra and some of those positions. However, I did kind of expect Biden to be pretty good on the environment. That's the one area where I've consistently thought he's been doing well on.
He still gets a score on that. So how much out of 1 to 10, how much would you give a grade to Biden on progressive picks?
Progressive on like specifically progressive picks.
Like your progressive picks, like your 10 being super progressive and not Bernie Sanders progressive because Bernie's not a Democrat. I'm talking
Deb Haaland is Bernie Sanders progressive, so
Okay.
well, that's fair, but I'm talking about progressive, not socialist progressive, just progressive. 1 out of 10. What would you give Biden as a score?
Like I said, you have to go pick by pick. I don't think it's fair to characterize them all.
Like, I mean, if 1/3, you said that 1/3 of the people are very progressive, you're really happy. The other 1/3, you're still pretty happy with them. They might not be as progressive as you like, but they're fairly progressive as well. And then 1/3.
I said 1/3 is centrist.
Centrist.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you average it right, he's a centrist candidate who has a centrist administration. So that, I guess, that's the average you're looking for.
That's fair. Some are progressives and some are not. And that's fair.
It's not really true because he doesn't have anybody even close to Republican. So the Republican people are probably looking at this and going, I mean, this centrist guy certainly didn't go really
get Kasich.
I mean, yeah, he didn't get Kasich. So that's what I'm asking you. I'm feeling like in my head, Biden for the progressive policies is getting at least a 7. I mean, I would give him an 8, but I'm surprised you're not giving him a really high score because he ran as a centrist and he gave you quite a bit of super progressive, mildly progressive. He gave us no even close to super conservative people. So Joe Manchins are not happy with this at all because they didn't get any conservatives.
I mean, I think it's the headspace, right? Like when I say centrist, they are too conservative to my liking. So,
but to a Republican, they're not even close. They're
right.
Sure.
So that's what I mean.
Well,
so he did a good job. I'm still not. I feel like this is like the same thing as like, was the election stolen? You don't really want to say Joe Biden did a good job on.
Well, no, there's some positions that Joe Biden did an amazing job picking, and then there are some that he didn't do. So
better than Obama.
Better than who?
Better than Obama.
That's a fair
Obama. I mean, some of his picks were Obama's picks. Some of them are better than Obama. So I will give him that. I think on the whole, Biden is better than Obama.
So he is more progressive than Obama on his picks.
On the whole, yes, I would say yes.
So he did good, and Obama didn't run as a centrist in the beginning, by the way.
I know, but he did kind of govern closer to a centrist.
So
Zach, there's another piece. There's just one other piece I want to say about Vilsack before we let that go because it keeps coming up. But I did go to see Joe Biden in Iowa last year, and when I went to see him, he was polling 4th or 5th. People were like, there's no way Joe's going to do anything in Iowa. And then subsequently New Hampshire until South Carolina. But they were saying that then. They were like, yeah, but we think South Carolina. And there was nobody in Iowa voting for him. My mom got a phone call from Jill asking if they could do a tea at her house because there was nobody doing anything for Joe in Iowa except Tom and Christy Vilsack were the only two who were running up and down that state. And sometimes that loyalty piece plays into some of this stuff as well. And I got to tell you, there was very few people on Joe Biden's side a year ago this week. And it changed in Super Tuesday with South Carolina after South Carolina. So that might be another reason.
Political. I mean,
yeah, there definitely are.
There are, but it's not like he's picking like a Jeff Sessions or someone where it's just like, whoa. I feel like a lot of these people are staggered like center left, and then there are some center, and then there are some more progressive. But
well, and the thing I was really impressed with Joe on his first night when he was talking to the whole staff, when he let them know that no matter who you are, if you overestimate or if you bully someone, you're going to be fired. And he said that on national TV. And I think that that's probably an indicator about how he did some of these picks as well. I think Joe had very specific ideas that he wants these folks to do in that position. They're not coming in to say, hey, what do you guys want to do in the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development? It's, I need you to do this, and this, and then we'll start. And I think that everybody he's picked is probably very clear on what their job is. That's my hunch.
Yeah, I think so. Super professional.
Mm-hmm.
If we want a short palate cleanse, I've got the Burks reaction to Trump's disinfectant comments to wrap up our Burks discussion. You guys ready for this?
Yes.
Probably some of you are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, you can, which
oh no, I dropped
either through
I
the
raised
skin
the resolution so we could see it
in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant.
Look at
that
her.
Knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? As you see, it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical
doctors for that.
Sounds,
look at her face.
Sounds interesting to me.
Sorry, I had to raise the resolution so you could.
Well,
it's such a bad camera angle that if you don't raise the resolution, she just looks like a ghost. So,
but I still would like to find out what graphs he manipulated, because I was trying to find their.
I bet it's those Axios graphs. Don't you remember the Axios graphs where he's like, "We're winning, we're ahead, we're beating these other countries," and it's like this. It's like Play School does bar graphs. It's like 4 big squares. It's like, man, that is some junior high crap.
I was looking online and I found the videos are too long, but there was a graph of deaths, total deaths projections, and their projection was 100,000. And I'm wondering, is that one of the graphs where the projection was 100,000 total, and we're at 400 and it's probably going to hit 600 soon, and maybe end up with 1.2. It's a big deal when you tell the public on a virus that no one knows about, that you kept on calling a hoax, that 100,000 told people are going to die, while you're telling everybody that a flu kills 70 to 90,000 as well. So that's what I have an issue with hers. If he was doing that and he was lowering the death tolls on how the projections as well, and she didn't step up and go, no, we did a projection. It's 4 or 5, 6, 7 million people are going to die if we don't slow this thing down. That really does put it in perspective why the MAGA people and the Republicans don't think it's a big deal.
Right.
Well,
it's been framed without it being a big. It's insane.
We all knew that he was not doing what he should have done, which is have Deborah Birx Fauci explain the situation. And then normally a president would come up and say, so here's what we're going to do.
Right.
Instead, he's playing MC. He's only letting them give snippets. And then even when they're giving snippets, I'm sure we can find other press conferences. Obviously, I don't want to do it while we're on. But other press conferences where, they come on and they say 2.2 million or whatever. And then he comes up, but it's going to be far, far less than that. We're not going to come anywhere near that. So we all knew what she said. Obviously, the question is, what should she have done? And I think we could discuss that ad nauseum, but I think
we
really
also have to not allow ourselves to pretend that we're shocked.
No, I'm not
because
shocked.
We knew this stuff. We all were looking at it kind of going, oh my God, all of this seems fake. All of these words are lies. So the fact is, we could yell at ourselves right now too for not going and doing more research and finding the answer. The fact is, we were under a despotic government that was trying to eliminate any kind of a response to this at all.
Yeah.
And now what's an interesting talking point that you're hearing on the right is, and I'm hearing it in different places, so it's got to be getting around, that, well, the government saved a lot of money by not having to pay the Social Security of all those dead people.
That's the worst topic ever.
Have you heard that? Because I have.
I've actually heard a couple of people that I personally know that have told me, well, on the good side, this will help out Social Security. I mean, that's
exactly. It's a complete bullshit line, and it also doesn't recognize the value of each human being. If you just go to a normal insurance actuarial table, I'm not making this up. People have been given a value depending on their age and their capacity and what they're worth. Nobody's worth nothing. In fact, most people are worth more than they can possibly imagine on paper on those actuarial tables. Like you're looking at signing bonus money when you look at how much you're worth on those tables.
Yeah.
So for us to lose these people and not have those numbers calculated is purposeful. We're losing wealth. Every person
to do that. That could be someone's mother, daughter, father, son. I mean, really, we're going to start talking about Social Security while we're not talking about the fact that Trump has done more damage to Social Security in the past couple of in this year, that it's going to take years and years to recover by using the funds from Social Security for to pay on unemployment. He basically took money and told corporations not to file and to delay their Social Security, all the taxes that we would get for Social Security for months and months and months, and then gave the new administration the FU to deal with that. So we haven't been collecting Social Security taxes from a lot of companies. Now, luckily, some companies have been collecting it regardless, but there have been some that haven't.
Well, and I don't want to dominate. I just want to say this too, because this is something that needs to be brought up. Another thing that has happened during this year of COVID, and it's in this just raw response to it and lack of response, is a culture that has devalued life. Has thrived. One of the things the right wing has said for years is that the right to life is something that is a cultural war, and that we need to stop abortions because it will eliminate our love of life and our respect for life, etc. This has been a year where the right wing of America has driven an anti-life message like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And it's just simply a disregard. It's not even, it's just a whatever. Oh, there's 400,000 dead now. Okay. Hey, let me lie to you. There will be a vaccine here by election day.
Right.
Where was it? It wasn't there.
I've heard this one. How many of you heard the whole hundreds of thousands of people die per year? Well, this is no different, which I hear that all the time. And one thing they always tend to leave out from that conversation is those people still died. 400,000 is on top of those people that also died. And I would also argue one number that we haven't even seen is we haven't seen how many people are dying extra from heart attacks, strokes,
suicide.
They can't go to the hospital because it's full. We haven't even gotten to that number. So while the other side is arguing with, well, people die all the time from flus and this, they're forgetting to tell you that those people still died. And then we added an extra 400,000. And then there's also an extra amount of people that died because they didn't get to the hospital fast enough. They didn't get their checkups. How many years are people off their life because they didn't go to checkups and heart doctors and all of that we're going to get?
Yeah.
Another aspect to this is I think Joe Biden's administration is going to start accurately reporting numbers, and we're likely going to see a large spike in the numbers, which I feel like a lot of Republicans will dishonestly say, look, it's getting worse under Biden, when in reality, he's just accurately reporting numbers.
That's a good point.
I hope they I hope they do that smart, though, and do a retroactive map versus doing a plump of, we just found an extra 50,000 people that died that were never reported.
What do you people have here for me? Jeff, is this Ace? What do I got here?
Oh, we don't have to. We're almost, I think we should probably take some questions because we haven't done that in a while.
We should, and then we should wrap it up.
Yeah.
I've got some Bernie memes.
Bernie memes.
I think a lot of Americans too, by the way, just real quick, it's a bigger topic, but I think a lot of Americans don't think it'll ever happen to them. They don't want to wear helmets. They don't want to wear seatbelts. They're casual about COVID. They keep loaded guns unsecured in their home. They just think accidents will never happen to them. And so we have this weird boldness in America that we don't We don't look at the idea that you're the most likely person to die with the gun you own in your own home. A helmet law is to protect your own brain. And how many people do we know that have put a DOT sticker on a plastic army helmet so that they can not get pulled over by the cops because they're required to have a DOT helmet, which is the lowest requirement for a helmet, when they should be wearing a Snell-rated motorcycle helmet to protect their cranium and their brain. But it's just never going to happen to them. They're just a better rider than that. They're not going to have an accident. And I think a lot of that comes with COVID too. They say, well, I'm not obese, I don't have diabetes, blah, 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 so COVID's not my problem. Well, first of all, none of those things are true. Second of all, you can carry it to anybody else. It's just kind of classic American. I guess it's just pigheadedness that a lot of Americans don't think anything bad's ever going to happen to them. It's always to someone else.
Jeff, that's known as freedom.
Yeah,
freedom
COVID.
Yeah.
Hey Marty, can we do Jeff's memes and answer questions and do that?
Oh, let's do it. Ask questions. We'll go through them. We'll hit some memes. We'll be done. This is awesome.
Format looks much better with memes and.
I like.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, so here's okay. Oh my God.
Borderlands 3 is a video game. I take it. Ace. I'm way behind on my video game life. So here it says we're just going to paint a little Bernie Sanders right here and give him some happy little mittens, which I thought was pretty good. Even Zach laughed at that one. I appreciate that, Zach.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, wait.
Let's grab a question.
I'll do a question.
Yeah, on each one. So
I don't see any questions. They're all engaged with the memes.
I like this one: raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles, and Bernie and mittens.
Bernie and mittens. Wow,
that's pretty great. And then this is
oh my God,
Basic Instinct with Bernie replacing the underwear in that one.
No, there was no underwear in that one.
Some of us know, some of us don't. I thought this one was absolutely hilarious. This one maybe.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, I had not noticed actually the baby legs. The baby legs maybe make it even better. And then this is Guns N' Roses Chinese Democracy.
Oh.
So it has a political subtext also, which I thought was pretty entertaining. And then this is separate. This is Joe Biden.
Unfuck these, unfuck this, unfuck this thing in particular.
Unfuck this thing in particular, and fuck this thing. And that's the end of my my memes.
Beautiful.
Collected from Twitter and Facebook and wherever I see them. I just save them onto my phone and then bring them up here.
No, this is good.
Any questions? I don't think we have any questions.
Any questions for tonight? We decided to do this slog a while ago, and Zach, I appreciate it, man. We needed to go through this because we need to know who they are. I think it's been a lot of fun to sort of see where we are and some differences in the left that are at the beginning, right? We're sort of measuring some time right now to see where this thing kicks off and see where we end up. I think it will be interesting to revisit maybe this conversation in a few months and see what we've learned about what their initial work was about. But I was going to ask before you go, where are you at on the filibuster? Because we've been talking about that on this show for a while.
I think that we should get rid of the filibuster, mainly because, I mean, you could
be living with ramifications of that for a long time, dude.
Yeah, I liked how Ace went about it when he talked about how we need to make sure we have more states with us if we're going to get the filibuster. I thought that made a lot of sense. But in a general way, if we get rid of the filibuster, that means we can start passing a lot more democratic legislation, which means if we're doing what we're going to do, the Republicans aren't going to win.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's another element to that.
And I would go a step further and say, even if the Republicans are in the majority, the idea that a minority can stop a bill doesn't seem to me to really fit the design of our republic. I mean, if we're going to be a republic, and we get it, it's overweighted to low density states and everything already, but it's still a republic. They just chose a model that doesn't reflect population density. You know, the body should be able to vote. I mean, I just can't even imagine being in any organization where like you go to vote on something and, 30% of the people stand up and say, no, we're not going to, and they just get to freeze it. Like, I would be like, what are you talking about? Those 30% of people can't stop us from voting. Oh, no, we got this special rule, the filibuster. I mean, I get it. Yes, it could become a Republican Senate and they could push through everything, but they should be able to. I mean, that's the way a republic should work.
I'm with you.
And I I completely agree. I think we should definitely. I started with in the beginning, don't touch the filibuster. It's too dangerous because the Republicans are so nutty, and I've seen what this administration does with all the power plus the filibuster. They pushed everything through, but then again, this administration didn't pass anything. So, but then the more and more I see the way the Republicans are working, the more and more I realize they're just not going to let Joe Biden do any work, which means they're going to do their thing where they're going to say, my job is to make sure that Biden is a one-term president, which means he doesn't pass anything. So then I'm changing my vote and just get rid of the filibuster. But as a politics play, you have to do two things at once. You have to get rid of the filibuster, which means you have to have votes. But while you're getting those votes, you have to also tell those people like Joe Manchin and all the votes you're going to need to get rid of the filibuster. By the way, I need you to vote on DC statehood.
Right.
That comes with
And
that.
Puerto Rico.
You don't get Puerto Rico is a tougher one. I would love Puerto Rico, but that's a tougher get. I don't think you're getting Puerto Rico because A, my understanding is Puerto Rico doesn't want to. B, I think
they voted in 2020 to join the union.
Okay. But there's my also understanding is there's a lot of Democrats that are worried about Puerto Rico's finances as well. So I think Puerto Rico is just a tougher get. I think DC is a much easier win on the first go around. And I think you can convince someone like Joe Manchin, hey, we're going to guarantee you an extra 2 votes to get your stuff over. And I think they should be politicking and whipping votes for both things. Get rid of the filibuster and DC statehood to fairly pack 2 more Senate seats, governors, House members, the whole shebang, well, senators. And the Republicans can go pound sand because they have the Dakotas.
Well, and I guess my final piece I want to say on this is looking at the forensic data of the ramifications of the way we've been running the Senate. We talked about it earlier about how there's been a rise in people that have gone to the impeachment or gone to the to try to stand up and block the certification of elections with the Electoral College. There's been a rise in that over the past few, elections. We've seen all these systems go into place because Republicans and Democrats alike are searching for levers in the Constitution to make our government work. It's so dysfunctional and there is so little that is allowed to happen that's why the factions on both sides have to try to figure out ways to break the thing. So for us to not break the filibuster one way or another and allow the people and democracy, this is what I wanted to say at the beginning of the show, but democracy is our greatest asset. And so being a Senate with a filibuster is not a constitutional thing. It's a Senate rules thing. I say let them go. Let them govern. Let's pass some laws. Let's change this country. Let's see what happens. And if the Republicans can argue and build a party against all those good things that may happen and all the energy and life and environmental things and economic things that will help people who need help right now, if they can figure out a way to beat us, that's great. But it's time to move the frickin' ball,
And do your best too. If you think you're going to do your best by passing these laws and they're for the good of the people, you win elections just based on you doing good work.
Amen.
And what right now, what you're going to get is if you don't get rid of the filibuster, then in 2 years and 4 years, you're going to get an argument from the Democrats of, well, we would have done more, but the Republicans stopped us.
And that's why, to me, the other piece is having Bernie at the head of the budget committee in the Senate. Are you kidding, Zach? Is that not seriously awesome for you? I mean, are you not happy?
It is awesome. No, I'm very happy about it.
Dude, he's driving a big old bus.
He's driving a big old bus, although Zach wouldn't give my Biden like a 7. I'm still surprised.
He's not a progressive. I mean, you shouldn't expect him to be a 7 progressive.
I forgot he's a...
Just to know, though, I mean, Bernie, no one appointed Bernie to that seat. He got it because of his seniority in that position and because the Democrats have a majority. So that's another reason why it was so important for the progressives to make sure that a centrist in Georgia wins a race. So we could have gotten Bernie in this position.
But Biden actually, there is a report that Biden was going to get Bernie to come into his administration, but they both decided, they decided it would be best for him to be a senator, which is the right decision. That
I agree.
So he did try to do that, which is really, really nice. I still think that, Biden deserves at least a 7 or an 8 on the progressive scale of what you were going to get.
Well, I will cut it off, and we'll end the show by saying, and Zach, we can leave it this way. As we head into the next 18 months, are we on the same team?
Mostly on most issues, especially on coronavirus. I think that's the most important issue where we are on the same team.
All right.
Zach.
That's not what I wanted to
Not
hear.
what we want to hear. You got to get on. Remember, it's like the train. We're a big boy train now. We have the Senate, we have the House, we have all the power, we have a centrist president, and that train is chugging along. And you have your little train with no engine right now. You can either clap onto the engine and let's start moving along, and we'll make our stops by progressive lane and some more progressive lanes. But other than that, we got all the power. We're moving. We're chugging along. And without us,
we want you on our team, Zach.
We got to be on the same team, because while that's happening, the MAGA guys are still arguing this election isn't real, and you're staying out of it by going, well, I'm not really sure about this guy and that guy. All right. Still moving.
Zach, you get to retort.
Look, I'll end it with this. Where anything that is furthering the progressive cause, we are on the same team. Anything that isn't, we aren't. So even though I dislike Biden's healthcare plan, if it comes up to vote, every progressive should vote for it. I'll say that.
Fair enough.
And that's kind of all. That's where I'm at too. I think you're right, and I think that's a fair ethic to go about. And but keep us honest on this show, please. I mean, if you need to come in and slay some dragons and say, hey man, you guys are friggin' way off base, you've become Republicans, we're going to need to hear that.
And we're not
all massive Republicans. You need to hear that. Just joking.
We're not Trumpers, so there's going to be times where I don't like what Joe Biden does. Even though I should be more or less aligned to him politically. I mean, we all have the right to dislike anything he does specifically. But I'd like to think all four of us are very happy that we're over here instead of over there.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everybody in the audience, thank you for being with us. Please continue to support us. We'll be here on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. 10 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Mountain Time. That's my time. Thanks for being with us and for promoting this link on this show if you can, and liking us on our YouTube page. And we appreciate the chance to do this. It's a mental exercise, but it's also an ethical discussion, a moral discussion, and a discussion about where we're headed as people. Final thoughts, guys, as we head out. Any things to say before we cut out?
I definitely want to make sure that everybody follows us. We have only a month and a half left of Periscope, and we have to have another area where we can all meet up. And the more you share this link, the more you follow, the bigger this community grows. We do not have much time, and it is much harder to get the crowd that we're looking for, to get these different ideas and the Zachs and the Jeff. The only way we can do it is we really do need your help on Twitter. We got the YouTube page.
Yep.
We're going to be trying a couple of other things, but those two big things, we really do need everybody to follow us on Twitter. We're going to be doing, we're doing a lot of work, but please, we don't have that much time.
And we will definitely be on Twitter, Elena. But I don't know what that's going to mean, if there's going to be something special about Twitter Live as we move forward. So we're kind of in that limbo.
There is nothing special
with
Twitter Live, which means unless you're like searching hashtags, now they don't have a live tab. So much tougher. So we really do need everybody to follow us. We really do appreciate it. And we put a lot of, as you guys can see, we are an opinion show, but all of us put a lot of work and research, and we're trying our best. We got links. We will try to speak with facts, backed up facts. weeks.
Yep. And we're leaning into it because we need to talk. We need to share. We need to be able to process this. So thanks again for everybody for being here. Big time pumped that you're with us and can help us out. Jeff, final words?
Nope, pass. I'm good.
Pass. You're good. Zach, final words before we wrap it up.
I'm glad Trump's gone.
Yeah.
This is the first chance I get to say it on the show.
Thank you for saying that.
It's been nice, and it's been a little boring for a week. I'll take mine back. A little more subtle.
Well, I think between now and Thursday night's show, we're going to have plenty to talk about. I just have a hunch this week's going to lay itself out in some new ways. So,
yeah.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Thanks much. Have a great night, everybody.
America heals.